Welcome to listening to stories on Kevin TV audiobook channel, Chapter 601. The noble party four mothers tap. Vasilissa landed back outside Arad's keep, patting the dust off her clothes. Of course, some would have survived and come for revenge for Vlad. She looked at Arad's keep. Shall I hunt them down? No, the rest are weaklings that Arad and Gojo can handle on their own. Vlad is a slippery bastard. I should be looking for him instead. She walked back toward the keep. No, I should leave Vlad for them. I can't interfere too much. Kleck. She opened the door and walked back in, looking between the guests. Where did you go? Tina approached her. Master Arad and Lady Mira looked for you after the dance. Sorry, mother's instincts. I left my son alone at home and felt as if I heard him crying, so I bolted out. Tina remembered her daughter asleep upstairs. I know how you feel. Hope he was all right. He was actually crying, Vasilissa replied with a wry smile. Really sorry for leaving like that. Don't worry about it. Feel free to stay as long as you want. Tina turned around to lead her toward the ballroom. Now that vampire is dead. I can drop this body's power to a human level without leaving any traces that Gojo might pick on. No need to put him to sleep. Vasilissa walked into the ballroom and looked around, taking the chance to search for a certain old man. Where is he? That ape is dangerous at many levels. You look confused. Ayla sat beside her. Lady Ayla? Vasilissa gasped. Tap. Ayla touched her shoulder. You danced with Arad, then left without notice. You have courage, don't you? Sorry, I had to check on my newborn son, she replied with a worried smile. Ayla blinked, thinking she lost her mother and might be one soon. How would I act if I had a child? I hope he was fine, Ayla sighed, relaxing on her chair. But no monster would get through the dragons guarding the village. It's not just monsters. Babies cry a lot. She looked at Ayla's face, then at the dance party listening to the tunes Izdis played with her band. I do not know much, but dragons aren't omnipotent, are they? She waved her hand. Something might slip through their claws like a fly slipping past a guard. Ayla looked at the ballroom, a fly slipping through the cracks. She could see a small fly going through the window. She wouldn't have noticed it if she wasn't actively looking for them. You might be right, Ayla stood. I'll ask Merlin to teach us how to create a massive, tight barrier to block unauthorized entries to the local area. That should stop monsters, bugs, and humans alike. No need to make such a drastic change because of me. You brought up an important topic. It would be troublesome if anything interrupted the wedding, so I'll try to get it done before that. Ayla smiled. I was listening? Arad approached them. The moment she saw him, Vasilissa bowed slightly, sorry for leaving suddenly earlier. No need. Arad stopped her mid-bow. The suggestion of the people is important. I'll make a box where people can leave their anonymous ideas. It's Baltos's idea, and he said that I could put it for show and ignore it. But your suggestion proves it's worth looking through. That is deceiving the people with fake hope if you don't at least read the suggestions and give them a thought. Does it really need her idea to make you check them? Ayla stared at him. And what do I know? Arad sighed. I'm just learning, and I can't possibly know if something is bad or good for the village unless I give it a try. If a king told you it works, you're bound to believe them. Vasilissa giggled. Arad looked back at Baltos, worried. You're right. By the way, Vasilissa smiled, I never saw Lord Arad's parents around. Arad and Ayla looked at each other. I don't know who my father is, and my mother abandoned me at birth. No, should I say let me go about life on my own? She didn't abandon me if she left that. He remembered Mom in his head. I don't know much about dragonkind. Vasilissa smiled. But I doubt she's abandoned you like that. Really? Ayla looked at her. I doubt a powerful dragon would have trouble raising a child. They do look like birds, Vasilissa said, touching her lips as she thought. I heard some drop their chicks from the nest to teach them to fly, even if one looked young and struggling on the ground alone. Its mother is always watching from above the trees. She smiled. If they called for help, or a predator appeared, she'll swoop down and deal with it without the chick even noticing. Ayla looked at her. Black raptors and giant eagles do that. Some inexperienced adventurers get carried away and try to catch the defenseless chick, only for them to get snatched by the mother before they could even approach the little bird. Arid looked at Vasilisa, thinking, it's a bit strange, but I guess different creatures act differently. Vasilisa smiled inside. But what about the father? Ayla asked. I mean, did he leave and never got back? Or are they like lions where a new alpha kills the previous one with his spawns? Vasilisa looked at Ayla. I'm sure I dropped him here right before Alcott arrived. Mother's instinct in humans aside, fathers can also have it, and I'm sure Alcott is one of them. I don't know, she replied. Couldn't she be a lone mother, like tigers? I'm the son of a dragon, and a human, that I know. Arad looked at her. She once almost killed her brother. I doubt with her strength she'd lose to anyone, even the dragon slayer Alcott. I was trying to kill that ape. Gojo shouldn't be harmed by me slapping a fly off his hand. It might stink, but that's all it is. Vasilisa looked at Arad. I heard the dragon slayer can beat any dragon, Vasilisa replied. He's a respected middleman between the dragons and humanoids. Can she win against him? No doubt. Arad sat on a chair. But I wish I'd at least met one of them. Arad, Mira approached and pointed back with her thumb. Her mother, Lila Bellathor, standing behind her. Didn't I say it before? Lila approached Arad sitting beside him. If your mother isn't around, you can always come back to me. If you're marrying my daughter, then you're my son. That's why we call them son-in-law. She pulled Arad's head toward her chest, patting his hair. The strong we care, Nina approached alongside her grandmother. She also likes to have a word. That's ours, Grandma Shear said with a smile, the tribe's son. Necht hear Hugh. A telepathic message rang through their heads. Clog was listening from the outside, and Dragon is better for him. I'll be his mother. Zephyr flew from Ayela's head and sat on Arad's, trying to push Lila away with her hand. He's mine. I'm the oldest. You, small. Shear stared at her. Shut up, Speedy Grandma. You'll be his grandma, so don't fight on the mother role. She instantly growled at her, then looked down at Arad. I've more experience and a lot of things to teach you. I can't have that. Out of everyone, Kinryu approached, letting a chromatic dragon raise him, or a spirit could be bad. He looked back at two women, silver and gold dragons morphed into humans. When metallic dragons reach the worm stage, they lose the ability to have children, so they focus on nurturing and teaching the next generation. Any of those two is happy to be his mother, the two approached. We can't let him grow learning from the chromatic or spirits, can we? The two smiled, approaching Arid. Merlin watched from the back. Ara, how many single moms are there? Can't they find something else to do rather than to flock around my Arid? Vasilisa stared at them, annoyed. Her eyes glared at Arad and the countless women flapping their wings around him. Can't leave him be. Lila stared at her. Well, he's ours until his mother shows up. She's going to get an earful. Zephyr stared at her. Smack Shear swings her fist. Bad mother. We smack. Nina looked at them. Grandma says she'll beat her with a cane for abandoning a child. Such behaviors are extremely hated by us. Barbarians who live in tribes. It's also that way among us dragons, the two metallic dragons added. Leaving your children for no reason is one of the highest crimes. The father is just as responsible. Kinryu nodded. If they are cognitive enough to decide to make a child, it's their responsibility to care for it. That's why we marry for life, unlike them. He glared at the window where Clog sat outside. To us, it's better to let them experience the world on their own. Once they grow enough to hunt, they can leave the nest. Chapter 602, The Noble Party v. Brilliant Luminance. Chapter 602, The Noble Party v. Brilliant Luminance. Sir, Arad, a man in clergy clothes, approached with Merlin at his side. I have a letter from the church. Arad smiled. Excuse me for a moment. He stood walking away with Merlin and the cleric. Is it done? Arad asked with a smile. The cleric smiled. It is done. Feel free to drop by any day except Sundays. It's the day of the prayers to the goddess of the sun, Amaterasu. That's why we call it Sunday. Are the other days named the same? Arad asked. They are, each named after a god, but not all gods have the days of the week named after them. There are only 7 after all. The cleric smiled. You heard him. We can go tomorrow. Merlin smiled. The preparations are done after all. You're right. We've been waiting for the clearance, but I would love to give the guests at least 1 day ahead. Merlin said as she thought. It would be best if we held Aella's ceremony in the Elvish capital, but getting people there is a problem. Since we don't know that many people there, it could end up as an empty marriage. He sighed. We could attract people by dragging the queen alongside. The Elvish citizens are bound to flock to a wedding that their queen attends. It won't feel the same. They are coming for the queen. I need them coming for Aella's wedding? He stared at her. It's your wedding as well. Merlin smiled. I honestly won't care if people attend it or not, as long as I'm marrying Aella. She's the important one. But she seems to care about how the marriage looks, so I can't let it be bland. Arad. Zephyr flew toward him, sitting on his head. Go to the bath. Someone wants to talk with you. Who? Arad stared up at her, confused. Why the bath? She's obsessed with staying clean and sparkly, Zephyr replied. So go. I called her to help, so be thankful. If you say that, I guess I'll give it a look. Arad walked upstairs, still confused. Why the bath of all the places? Who is it? A wind spirit doesn't call normal people? Merlin looked at Zephyr. Who and what did you pay this time? I didn't pay anything this time. I called and she said she'll do it for free. Zephyr replied, sitting on Merlin's head. What are you looking at? She glared at the cleric. Want me to take your churches down? Nothing at all, he bowed. We won't want to offend the spirit of the land. Please, excuse me. He turned to leave. So, Merlin looked at Zephyr. Who is it? Luminance? Wait, that? How could calling her help in anything? Do you know who you're dealing with? Merlin gasped. The great worm light dragon. She's a gold digger, but a decent Dracaina. Zephyr looked away. Click, Arad opened the bath's door and walked inside. Suddenly he could feel his surroundings changing in the blink of an eye. Blue, green, and red lights flashed out of the door, separating the changing room and the bath, dancing in a blinding rainbow hue of colors. Son of the void, come in, a voice called him, and he stepped forward. It's you again, the one who made the mirrors. The woman of mirrors, the prismatic light great worm, she replied, the shining light of this world. Arad opened the door and walked in, covering his eyes from the blinding light. This is still as uncomfortable as I remember it, Arad growled. I'm naked here in front of you, can't you look? She said with a giggle. Can't you turn that light down? Arad growled. Looking at the sun is 100 times easier than turning my face to you with my arm covering it. She smiled, for I'm the most beautiful Dracaina in the world. Even the mountains burn and crumble, falling to their knees upon looking at my face. No one can confirm. We can't look at you. Arad sighed. What do you want? I never use your mirrors, so you aren't going to ask me to pay for that. I'm a gold digger, she replied, but my beauty is unmatched. I'll let you know that. Schlop. She switched her legs in the water. Zephyr asked me to help you move people to the Elvish kingdom for Aella's wedding. She said, that little fairy. Arad growled. I told her not to start troubles with powerful beings. I'll grant you another pair of mirrors large enough to fit a large carriage. One will be at your house, and the second one at Aella's mansion, Luminance said as she stood. And I'll deliver them now. The light turned off for a split second before coming back as Arad felt a hand touching his chest. I'm back. What happened? Arad growled. I flew to my lair, picked 2 mirrors, and dropped one at your house and another at Aella's house. It was that simple and that quick. Luminance giggled. Reburden. That speed is ridiculous, Arad growled. Burden. Light is the fastest thing in the universe, and I move at that speed. She ran her fingers on his chest. You're still young. You can't possibly fathom this speed until you become a great worm. But even then, I'll still be several times faster than you. Who said I'm going to race you? Arad grunted. Be 10 times faster than me. I don't care, Arad thought. Even if she was that fast, I could just slow time to match her. Go, they are waiting for you, she whispered, and the light faded. Arad fell on his face in his bath's changing room. He growled, standing up and rubbing his burning eyes. Ahead of him, he found a note. It reads, Just to put it clearly, each time I carried you to my bath all the way from your house and returned you. Even now I flew with you back. Did you notice it? Luminance stood alone in her bath, glowing brighter than any star as she looked at her forearm, seeing a scratch. She lifted her hand and licked the wound. Vasilisa's avatar was there. She managed to snipe me with a claw stroke out of the air. She giggled. If he could only get as strong as his mother, that would be a dream. Mistress Luminance, a woman said in the changing room. Her head and body were covered in a reflective glass suit to protect her from the skin-burning light. It's time for work. Tap, tap. Luminance walked out of the bath, standing before the woman. Don't you hate work like me? Not until the day I can gaze upon you, Mistress Luminance. Tap. Luminance put her hand on the woman's head. I love people like you, but don't push yourself too hard. She walked past her. So, what shall adorn my body today? Light-absorbing fabric. We got a new batch made, and it's better than the last one, the woman replied, turning around while still bowing, since the light might pierce her protective suits and burn her eyes if she made the mistake of facing Luminance. Ho, this is the achievement of the century. With this, I can stop 6.85% of the light emitted naturally by my body. Last time, it was 6.70%. She giggled. You're right, the woman replied. Grandma told me an advancement of more than 0.02% is a cause of celebration. Advancing a whole 0.5% is unheard of, quadruple the research team's salary and their research funds. Luminance said with a smile, Inform them that if they get another achievement close to this, I'll raise their salary tenfold, making it 40 times the current one. You're a generous. I'm not. I don't want to waste the chance. She looked back. As long as those mages are alive, I'll suck all their power and intellect to make fabric powerful enough to hold my light. You're still generous, even though I'm using you. If you're paying, no one would care. I'm sure they'll be thrilled to hear you like their work. Money is temporary, and light is eternal. What do you think of that, man? Luminance looked at the woman. To be able to stand in your presence with only his forearm protecting his eye. I couldn't have been more shocked. Last time, I wasn't here when you brought him. You're right. Your mother was here, and she couldn't believe it as well. Luminance giggled. Void dragons have an endless void inside their bodies. They could absorb my light. Won't his scales make good material for the research? That isn't an option, Luminance replied. For now, I'll keep my eyes on him. I have no need for his mother, and his brother is too skinny for me. Ha! The woman sighed with a smile. Mistress Luminance, you're so ill-natured, Vasilisa looked around the ballroom, a sore smile adorning her face. I just missed her face. Predicting that woman's movements is almost impossible. She could see Arad walking out of the bath, his skin slightly sunburned. Chapter 603, The Elvish Capital Church. Chapter 603, The Elvish Capital Church. The night quickly passed by and the morning came. Tens of full carriages lined up at the village's entrance, getting ready to travel across the land to the Elvish Kingdom. Why the Elvish Kingdom? A man sighed, his breath freezing in the cold. Baron's Arad wife is an elf. That's why, a woman replied. They said he's going to take care of getting us there and back. Can he really move us all? As the people talked, they saw Arad walking out carrying a massive mirror reflecting the faint sunlight coming through the clouded sky. What is he doing? Who knows? Arad walked toward the street and looked back. Gojo walked after him with a massive shovel, pushing the snow out of the way with one scrap. Thud. Arad put the mirror down, making sure to push it down until the lower frame got completely buried. The wooden frames are here. Jack walked in, dragging long wooden beams. Hold a minute. Arad pushed the mirror even deeper into the ground, making sure it sank at least 0.3 meters 1 foot. He then tapped its corner, causing it to flash with a blinding light and turn into a shade of gray. Jack pushed one of the wooden beams into it, and it went in without a problem. He then sat the beams on the ground to make something the carriage wheels pushed on so they wouldn't break the frame. Do we really need to do this? Gojo tapped the frame with his hand. I doubt I could crack it. It's not that much work, and I don't want to risk it failing, Arad replied, helping Jack line the beams as Gojo held the mirror in place. After lining all the beams, they quickly built a frame to support the mirror's back. It's red. Drive the carriages into it, and you'll get to the Elvish kingdom on the other side, Arad called with a smile, waving his hand. The people stared at him with skeptical gazes, unable to believe it. They heard of teleportation magic, but that thing was too expensive and consumed a ton of mana that it was out of commoners' use. Are you serious? A man mumbled. Even so, won't that be illegal? Going to another country without passing a checkpoint? Don't worry, there is a checkpoint at the other side. Arad tapped the mirror. At that moment, an elvish woman donned in plate armor extended her head out of the window. Holy lemons, it really works, she gasped. This place is so low on. She noticed Arad's face beside her, glaring at her. Hello, Baron Arad, she said with a scared face, looking back at him with sweat dripping across her forehead. Didn't I tell you it's dangerous to go through if carriages are about to pass? Come on, Baron Arad, she tried to explain. It was just set. There would be no one at that moment. Dalla poked her head out beside the elvish soldier. You're here? I found a nice slappable butt on the other side. Dalla stared at her with a smile. Get back to your post before I slap you. Yes, the elvish soldier cried, rushing back to her post. Just got here. Everything is clear on the other side, so get them to move. I know. Make sure no one gets in the way, Arad nodded as he approached the carriage. One after the other, drive through the mirror. On the other side, you'll find yourself at a checkpoint by the elvish soldiers. You don't need any identification. They'll just scan you with an appraisal orb that detects criminal acts like the one used by the church. He clapped his hands. Don't worry about the result, as the orb has been modified to only give a beep when a certain threshold of crime has been detected. Even the apprising soldiers won't know if you stoke a bag of rice 10 years ago or not. The people looked at each other. Arad waved his hand. Hurry! I want to start the ceremony as early as possible in compensation. I can bring you back at any time you want for the next 2 weeks. Wait, a young adventurer who was going to the ceremony with his family gasped. So we can go to the ceremony for today, then spend 2 weeks there before returning if we want it. That's right. But I also hope you'll make time to attend the other weddings as well, Arad replied to him. I needed a new sword, and I heard the elves make amazing rapiers. He smiled. I need to check them out, man. A woman cried, Hurry and bring the money. We aren't wasting this chance. Arad looked at them as they panicked. He thought, won't this make me money later? It will, Jack replied. We need to talk about it with the Elvish Queen, but we can make a safe instant link between the human kingdom and the Elvish kingdom for trade and tourism using this mirror. The money would flow like rivers. I would still need to pay a part of it to the Elvish kingdom for the upkeep of the checkpoint and their share, Arad replied. I'm sure I'll have to do the same here, but since it's on my land, I'll be paying myself. I'm sure Luminance would ask for a share, Gojo added. Still, I think it's a solid investment for passive income. I'll give Roberta a monopoly on the trade and Sarah a monopoly on the underground trades, Arad added. The Elvish Queen suggested that the illegal market should be controlled by the royal court to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. Trying to block people from it will always lead to more black markets appearing everywhere, Jack sighed. So it's better to go with it. Gojo smiled. The carriages rode past the mirror, landing at the checkpoint where the elvish knights stopped them for inspection. It was quick, but not without trouble. A husband was found to have cheated on his wife 5 times with their neighbor's wife. Funnily enough, she was also caught cheating with the same neighbor. They both cheated on each other with the same neighbor and his wife, who was also caught in the inspection. This revelation almost sparked a fight at the checkpoint, but the 2 families decided to keep it down and solve it later, so they were allowed through a man who murdered his brother 15 years ago, was caught and sent back for trial in Alina. Arad was appealed by how the orb worked. It checks the person's soul for guilt first, and if it detects it, it then cross-references it with the land spirits to see to which god the person in question believes. The god will then respond to Sylph, the elvish goddess who made the orbs with the man's deeds. Of course, their god can refuse to answer or lie, which usually causes people who believe in evil gods to pass with flying colors. The god of murder, for example, won't count murder as an evil deed, but that one is dead, so the murderer got caught. As the guests fully moved to the elvish capital, the soldiers led them toward inns where they could stay for the duration. As most of them can't speak Elvish, a knight was left with each family, making sure they got around without any troubles. Zephyr flew out of Aela's mansion, stretching her arms as she flew around, looking for Arad, who left earlier. A man saw her. His screams filled the whole capital. It's the wind spirit. Elves rushed from all of the capital toward Arad's mansion, seeking to see the spirit. What's going on here? Aela looked out of the window. I'll go check it out. Eris walked out to the garden, seeing Zephyr hiding behind the fences. What's going on here? Eris asked, and Zephyr stared at her with a sad face. Humans rarely remember me, but elves who lived for hundreds of years never forgot me. Each time I'm spotted, it ends like this. I'll call the guards to kick them out. Eris took Zephyr back inside the mansion and called the guards. Arad walked into the main church of the elvish capital, seeing people rush around with the preparations, some cleaning, and the other setting of the stand and rails, a halfling dangling from the goddess's statue hand, cleaning it with a towel. Sir Arad, the head priest, approached him. As you see, we're almost done with the preparations. We can hold the ceremony after noon. It's a beautiful church, Arad said, looking at the engraved marble walls and the massive colored glass window behind the giant opal statue of the elvish goddess. He especially liked the high ceiling, which was almost twice anything that he saw in any other place. It is, the priest replied with a smile on his face. This church was built 500 years ago by the goddess herself in the divine war. He looked at the statue with the sunlight passing through the windows behind it. Yggdrasil, the world trees keep growing. With each passing year, it blooms with emerald flowers, and if we're lucky, it sprouts fruit. He took a step forward. Sometimes it's a miko, and other times it's a really sour lemon or a lime. Why lemon and lime? Yggdrasil was a lemon tree mimicking the golden hair of the elves until the goddess thought it would be funny if it sprouted a green line like the elves' eyes. And so the tree started doing that, the priest explained. The most up-to-date novels are published on Chapter 604. Aela's wedding, Troubles. The elves gathered under the sunlight, standing right outside the main church in the snow, peeking inside the church as the guards blocked the main door after the place filled. The humans from Alina had already taken the majority of the place, making it harder for the church to fit more people. This might have looked like a regular marriage from the outside, but it wasn't inside the church, and beside the human, not a single commoner elf stood. Only the highest of the nobles of the country managed to attend, since the people in question were special. The great Uranus, the dragon who blasted the whole vampiric kingdom of Vlad, is marrying Aela, the herald of the wind spirit. A dragon that holds power in its claw and an elf who contracted one of the most beloved spirits in elvish history are marrying. The tension only grew larger as time passed inside. The nobles slowly started mumbling as it took Arad and Aela a while to get out of the priest's cabin, which they reserved to prepare. The priest stood in silence in front of the altar. His eyes closed as he held 2 fruits in his hands, a lemon and a lime. What's taking them so long? Eris asked, sitting with the crowds beside Mira and the rest. I want my turn quickly. Merida used Ayala's old measurements to create the wedding dress, Mira replied, tilting her head closer to Eris's ear. Merlin approached. Since Ayala was busy, she didn't bother trying it, and she also wanted to wear it for the first time at the wedding. Her shoulder and back muscles grew a bit larger since the last time she got measured. That messed the tight fit around the shoulder and chest that Merida was going for, Amber explained. I told her to go with something simpler, Lydia said. Merida said that since Ayala has a strong back and large breasts, it's better to go with a design that ends on her chest and has an exposed back. So it didn't fit? Eris sighed. Worse, Mira giggled. Each time she wore it, it always fell off her upper torso since it couldn't fit. Merida is now trying to patch it up with a few strings that wrap around the back. Suddenly, Tina walked out of the changing room and approached the girls. Is she done? Eris asked with a smile. Ayala's dress is almost fixed, but we have another problem. Tina approached them, whispering. Arid ripped the back of his suit when tried to take the pose. Merida wanted Ayala to take so she could fix her dress. He was trying to help by showing her how, but ended up ripping it. The girl sighed. For real, he didn't think about it. Mira sighed. I told you we need to do something about Merida and her tight clothes. She takes measurements literally, Lydia said. What do we do? Eris looked around, seeing Izdis, who stood behind them with a passive face. You with us? Mira poked her, and she gasped. What? She looked around, panicked. Did it start? What were you thinking about? Tina stared at her. Zephyr giggled, probably daydreaming. She's the last on the line, after all, having that royal preparation in the human capital taking so long. Unlike the other girls, Izids was the princess of a whole country, and her marrying meant the birth of a potential king, and the fact that people need to know that she might as well end up as their queen soon enough. With the humans being less advanced magically than the elves, it took them longer to prepare for a wedding, especially since Izids was a princess and not a member of an honored family like Ayala. Listen, you're a bard, so what do you? Tina re-explained the situation. I see, she started thinking. This is an elvish marriage, so they won't need to kiss. All they have to do is bite the lemon and lime the priest has. They won't need to give the crowd their sides, let alone backs. Really? The girls gasped. Won't they need to walk out of the church? Elves are mostly experts in magic and archery, so Arad is expected to show off a bit by taking Ayala out of here in a novel way. Most elves either carry their spouse out or move them with wind magic. Then Arad can use magic to get out. Eris smiled. Pretty much, there's no need for him to show the crowd his back, and he can just teleport with Ayala out. She smiled. But I have a better idea that would remain in romantic songs for generations, Izdis giggled. How about if he burst his wings out and fly with her above the clouds? No one would ask why his back is ripped out. It's where his wings came from. Flying out through where? Mira looked up at the ceiling. This place is closed. No, the windows on the dome should be openable, just as a priest to go on the roof and open them beforehand for Arad and Ayala to get through. Izdis smiled. I'm sure they can fit. Look how big those windows are. They probably should just teleport, Eris sighed. No need for flying out, and we don't need him destroying his suit even more. You're right, Izdis sighed. It would have been a nice poem. We need him wearing something for us. The other girls stared at her. I doubt Merida can fix it if he spread his wings and blasted it to bits. I'm going to check on them again. Tina rushed back into the cabin. Click. She opened the door and walked in, seeing Arad sitting on a chair, waiting as Merida sewed strings on Ayla's back. How is it? Tina asked. He. She tried to use 2 strings to finish early, but it seemed that Ayala's breasts could spill out if she moved wrong, the muscles on her back as strong enough to rip the strings out of the fabric. I'm going to use 6 strings, Merida said, and I'm trying them to different places. You need to take short breaths and don't make any sudden moves. Don't tell me they could spill outside. Tina sighed. No, I meant she stopped breathing heavily here when I'm sewing. It's making the job harder. Merida stared at Ayala. Calm down. I'm a bit nervous. You can't blame me when it's my wedding, Ayala gasped. Awa. Ayala cried as Merida poked her back with the needle. I said, don't move. The people started mumbling outside, waiting for Arad and Ayala to show up. Vasilisa looked at the cabin with a worried face. They won't fix it in time, would they? She stood, approaching the girls. Excuse me, can I ask something? They'll come out soon, Eris replied. Probably telling strangers what was happening wasn't a good idea, and she stuck to that reply. Did they damage the wedding dress or suit by any chance? Vasilisa asked with a smile, staring at the girls with a sharp glare. It's happened to me before, and I could help. The girls looked at each other. What happened? Vasilisa looked away, scratching her chin. The tailor mixed my measurements with another woman, and the dress didn't fit, and my husband tore his suit when he tried to do stretches. She giggled, and that story was true. I made a mistake and gave the measurement of one of my guises, so the dress didn't fit me. And Alcott did try to stretch a bit and ripped his pants. She remembered. What did you do? Mira stared at her, flipped the pants outside out, and gave them a rough stitch. It won't show when you flip them. As for me, I tightened my corset a bit and asked a friend to make me a bit smaller, using a horrid whittling spell. Vasilisa giggled. Wait, the spell that kills people by drawing moisture out of them? They gasped. It was my wedding, and damn it, I'm going in the white dress even if it kills me. Vasilisa looked at Merlin. You're a great wizard. I'm sure you have some spells to make her larger or smaller. It clicked in Merlin's head. Let's ask Zephyr. Yeah, Mira smiled. Come with me. You can sew clothes, can't you? Yeah, I can, Vasilisa replied with a smile, and Mira immediately dragged her to the cabin. The moment the door opened, Mira, Merlin, and Vasilisa walked inside and closed it behind them. I thought none would get here. Arad stared at them. She can help. Give her your jacket and shirt. She can sew them together. Mira pointed at Vasilisa. Hope she won't mess it up. Merida pointed back. Use my toolkit. Got it. Vasilisa rushed to work. Merida, Zephyr might be able to help. Merlin looked up, and Zephyr popped out of her hair. I do not have that fine control, but I can make you overall smaller to fit better. Niche. Chapter 605, Ella's Wedding, End. Chapter 605, Ella's Wedding, End. The cabin finally opened, and everyone extended their necks up to look. Arad and Ella finally made it out. The elves sighed. Finally, the wait was over. Arad and Ella approached the priest's stand, looking back at the people in the church. The priest looked at them, then turned around. Today is a blessed day. Under the watchful eyes of the goddess and the world tree, we witness the wedding of two souls. He lifted his hands. In my hands, I got two fruits of the world tree. He then turned toward Arad and Aela. Sir Arad Orion, do you accept Aela Deianira as your wife for all eternity? Yes, Arad replied. Lady Aela Deianira, do you accept Arad Orion as your husband for all eternity? Of course. She nodded with a smile. The priest smiled. Then may you be together in life and death. He extended his hands toward them, handing Arad the lemon and Aela the lime. Take one bite of the sacred fruit of the world tree, and the goddess may grant you a blessing. Arad and Aela took the fruits. She took a bite while Arad managed to munch and swallow the whole lemon with one bite. She felt a faint rush of magic across her head as the sour taste engulfed her mouth, while a clear green light flashed in Arad's eyes. To them, the whole church turned black, engulfed in darkness as everyone disappeared. Arad and Aela looked back, seeing branches burst from the ground and forming a massive tree with a throne in the middle. Barbara, red-eyed elf, glared down at them as she sat on the throne, one leg on the other with her head resting on her hand. Congratulations, this magic, Arad said, looking at the elves' goddess. It's the same place I was digging toward when the queen disappeared. Sylph, the elf goddess, Aela gasped. You're right, child of the void. This a demi-plane I meet people in for granting blessings or advice. I thought it was just customary. Not that you really show up, Arad smiled. I show up to every elf's marriage, birth, and death. I watch over them, bless their lives, and guide them through their existence till death brings them back to me. I never thought a day would come when I'd see you, Ayla smiled. We don't have time, so here is your blessing. It's not like any other I've granted. Tap. A small pot with a tiny tree growing appeared in front of Ayla. The world tree cultivated power for billions of years since Ao first made the whole world. This is but a branch, an insignificant fragment. You may grow it at your house. She then looked at Arad. Beneath the world tree, you, her, and your other wives of the future shall heal, and death may not claim you. When this tree grows, put your sick one under its shade to heal. Even that vampire would heal. So it whirled beneath this and the real world tree. Arad looked at the pot Ayla carried. It works with both. Lights came back up. Arad and Ayla found themselves back in the church. The guests there blinked, seeing Ayla carrying a pot with a branch bursting with the life force of the world tree. They took a step back, noticing that both Arad and Ayla, the girls in the back as well, had started absorbing the tree's magic for passive regeneration. Through the centuries, the blessings were nothing more than rings, a word of advice, or a magic item at best. It's the first time such a thing was granted. Arad looked at Ayla with a smile. It's done. Yes, please wait a moment. The priest pulled a pen and a small notebook, writing on it. Here, take this. Arad looked at the small notebook. This is your family notes. Right now it only has you and Ayla, but in the future you added your children to it. He smiled. May the blessing of the world light your life. Arad took the notebook. It's time he left with Ayla. He looked at her with a smile, touching her back. Zone. They suddenly disappeared as he teleported out with her. Teleportation magic? And without chanting, an elf gasped. He's indeed a powerful mage. Thud. Arad and Ayla landed back in the priest's cabin, and she fell on her knees, gasping as the size magic Zephyr cast disappeared. Finally, it's over. Take deep breaths. Zephyr approached her, fanning her face with wind magic. Will she be fine? Arad asked. Yeah, Zephyr replied. Size magic could feel really uncomfortable, especially for unclear changes. To be fine, you either need to be too small or too big. You can't just get a bit smaller. It's like motion sickness. Merlin looked at them. She'll be fine. The girls entered the cabin. Congratulations, Eris smiled. As the girls congratulated her, the elvish queen walked in and approached Arad. So, when will you beat her? Wait, what? Ayla gasped. This was an elvish marriage. How about the dragon one, when you two fight? She smiled. No need for that, Arad replied. I already knew their strength, and it doesn't need to be fighting all the time. Eris giggled. The queen is right. Dragons fight for the marriage ceremony since beauty to them is strength. That's an act of showing it to each other. He doesn't need a second look at your strength through a fight. Arad nodded. Should we go back? We still have preparation for Mira's wedding at Alina's church. Alice smiled. You're right. We should hurry. She looked at them. The other girls worked hard to make this day possible for her. She won't slack on them. They walked out through the church's back door, leaving in a carriage that awaited them and heading back to Alla's mansion. As the girls went into the mansion, Arad approached the guard post. How is it going? One of the guards approached him, bowing first. Congratulations, Baron Arad, looked at Arad with a smile. May the blessing of the world tree be with you for the rest of time. He stood from the bow. The mirror is fine, no damage was spotted through the transport, and we're already getting ready to send the guests back to Alina. Arad smiled. Thanks for the good work. He looked at the mirror. That thing is really something. It is, the guard smiled. How did it? A guard asked. No troubles? I ripped the back of my suit. Arad laughed. That must have been scary. An elf giggled. For me, I spilled water on myself while stressing out inside the cabin. My wife tripped the moment we got out of the cabin and almost broke a tooth. I told her she doesn't need high heels. Can't blame her. Those are the goddess' preferred shoes. Arad looked at them. High heels? One of the guards looked at him. That's right. The goddess Sylph was known for always wearing them everywhere, even to battle. He smiled. The sound of her heels clicking on the ground was told to send terror into her enemies. I thought those make it hard to move. Arad looked at them, confused. That's why, a guard giggled. When came to a fight with them meant that whoever she was fighting wasn't even worth it. Probably an act of domination. Arad thought about it for a few moments. Would they make a nice gift? The guards looked at him. For an elvish woman, of course high heels, silk white robes and hair ties are the best gifts that most would take. He's right. Anything besides those need to be special to the woman. If you don't know what she likes, one of those three is a safe bet, or give them a bow or quiver if they are an archer. Another one added, to us, archery is more of a hobby or a sport than a fighting style. We even have competition all year around, and people can get really enthusiastic about it. Arad nodded. I see. I'll get them all beside the bow. She already got one special. Ella had the steel bow that Mira made. He doubts anything can top that. Even magic bows won't make sense as they need the user to attune to them, which can take time, and the mana that she uses to cast wind magic. I'm going out for a bit. Arad left into the elvish capital marked, browsing the shops for the 3 items he needed, a white silk dress, a hair tie, and a pair of high heels. After an hour, Arad returned to the mansion where the girls were waiting for him. Where did you? Aella asked. I was talking with the mirror guards and decided to go buy some things from the city. Arad pulled a bag from his stomach. Buy what? I was thinking of buying something for you as a gift but didn't know what to get, but while talking with the guards I got some idea. Arad handed her the back. Those are for you. Chapter 606, The Second Wedding at Alina. Chapter 606, The Second Wedding at Alina. Arad and the girls returned to Alina by the sunset. The day had already ended, and tomorrow would be Mira's day, as they sat at the house. Arad left alone to the church to check on the preparation. Click. Arad walked into the church, seeing the nuns rushing around and cleaning the place, decorating it for tomorrow. Things look like they are going well, he said. One of the nuns approached him. Baron Arad, you returned from the Elvish Kingdom? Arad nodded. Just a few hours ago. He smiled. How are the preparations? First, the nun looked at him. Congratulations. Thank you. And about the preparation, we're almost done. It should be ready before midnight. The nun smiled, looking back and calling the head priest. Baron Arad. The priest smiled. Can I have the family notebook you got from the elves? Why? Register everyone in one place, since it's one family, he replied. That makes sense. Arad pulled the notebook from his stomach and handed it to him. I get it ready for Lady Mira and Lady Merida by tomorrow. The time didn't change, so it's afternoon. The priest turned around. See you tomorrow. Arad left, returning home to the girls. The moment he walked out of the door, Mira greeted him. How was it? She smiled. Ready. Since we're here, it'll be you and Merida right after another, so we can then head to the capital for Izdis, he smiled. I can't wait, Mira giggled. Merida is already testing the dress, so we won't have the same problem as Aella. Please do, and make my suit a bit larger. He walked around the house, seeing Izdis. By the way, where is Sebas? He asked. The first house on the road from here to the village. He's been preparing it for a while. Izdis smiled. I'll go check on him. It's been a while. Arad left the house and walked through the garden, opening the gate and heading down the road in the snow, finally reaching the house that Izdis mentioned. Arad walked into the house's garden, approaching the main door as he looked around at the garden. He knocked on the door. Sebas, are you here? Baron Arad? A voice gasped from the inside with footsteps rushing toward the door. I'm coming. He opened the door, looking outside as he fixed his glasses. Baron Arad? What brought you at this hour? Nothing important. Just wanted to check on you? Arad replied with a smile, walking inside. I've finished furnishing the house and already settled down. I was thinking of starting my work as a butler soon. Don't force yourself. You still haven't fully recovered from the poison. Arad smiled, sitting on a wooden chair beside the table as he looked at Sebas. I'm getting better, he replied. Then I'll count on you after the wedding's end, Arad smiled. I doubt we'll be staying home for long, so I'll count on you to keep things in check. I'll do my best, Sebas smiled. Those old bones aren't fragile yet, not that I'll be doing any hard work, he giggled, sitting face to face with Arad. I think you look healthier than most old men I saw. Arad looked at her. Your back isn't hunched and your reaction times are impressive. Really? How can you tell? Your eyes follow me almost the same moment I move. Such reaction times are those of a fighter. Arad looked at him. Were you a soldier at some time? I was forced to fight in an arena as a slave. You could say I was a gladiator in my young days, pitted against monsters and humans alike. We didn't have a choice besides killing each other, fighting for survival on starved stomachs. Sebas looked out the window. Each morning, we hope we're fighting something fair. I could find that arena and blast it. Arad looked at him. Of course, I'll take all the slaves out first. Don't worry about that, he smiled. We killed everyone there in a riot. I personally punched the manager there to death, he giggled. Of course, we got caught afterward, and that's how I ended as a sacrifice. That kingdom is already being changed by a brother, Arad stood. I'll ask him to deal with it. Thank you. Arad left the house, glad that Sebas was doing well. Sebas stared at the door, his eyes shifting from brown to golden with a tint of red. A lion-like tail emerged from his lower back, waving like a whip as his ears grew longer, and two horns emerged from above them horizontally. He hunched forward a bit as his arms and upper torso grew larger and more muscular, covered in brown fur as his jaw elongated. He looked like a mixture of an ox, a gorilla, and a lion, all mixed into one creature. Need more time, he smiled. The next day came quickly, and Arad found himself standing with Mira and Merida inside the cabin. Unlike Allah, those two didn't have a problem with their dress. How do we look? Merida asked, spinning around Arad. Beautiful, he replied with a smile, then looked at Mira, who looked worried. You as well, I know, but... Mira looked at her shoulders and arms. The tan she got from working in the sun was apparent, and she was uncomfortable with it. I don't like how those look, she stared at her arms. Can't you do something about them with that paint? He pointed at the desk. You mean the makeup? No, Mira sighed. It won't help, not on this scale. Magic would do the trick. Merida looked at her. I already called Merlin for it. Soon Merlin walked inside the cabin. I heard someone needed me for some fixing. Not fixing, Mira stared at her. Can you do something about this? There are two ways healing magic, but the sun-burnt skin will fall off, or illusion magic to mask it. Illusion magic, please, Mira gasped, and Merlin pulled a wand, waving it above her head. So what do you want, tan or no tan? Mira looked at Arad. Which one? Both are fine. Take the less noticeable one, Arad replied. Then all tan. Merlin smiled. Since then I would have a smaller area to hide, meaning it's less likely that other mages would notice. With a wave of her wand, Mira's full tans covered all of her exposed skin. Mira looked at her arms, then approached the mirror and turned around. Looking at her back and neck, everything looked fine with a uniform color. This is amazing, she gasped, turning toward Merlin. Thank you. No need to thank me, Merlin smiled. Let's go then, Arad stood. It's time we got out. Outside, people gathered around the church and inside it, waiting for Arad, Merida, and Mira to come out. Is he really marrying both of them at the same time? A woman sighed, standing inside the church. Cain, who stood beside her, nodded. That seems the case. He looked at the ceiling. Since they need to go to the capital as well. Is that really a reason? She sighed, looking at him. They could at least hold 2 weddings here, one for each girl. The nobles in the capital have tight schedules. Princess Isdis's marriage can't be changed, so it's best to finish here first before going there. Cain looked at her. And what's wrong with that? I don't know. Probably give them a day each. Do you think Arad won't give them that if they wanted it? Cain stared at her with his eyes glowing with a faint blue flame. Ella asked to get married in the Elvish kingdom, and he made it happen. He stared at Arad, and Mira and Merida walked out. Look closely at them. What do you see? The woman looked at them. They look happy. But then she could feel it. The shadow of a massive monster loomed behind them. They don't need to follow the norm, but do what they want. Cain walked away toward his seat, the blade of Winterhold that faced a demon queen, and the carpenter who only focuses on making new weapons. Arad Orion, the priest asked, do you accept Mira Bellathor as your wife in life and death? I do, Arad Orion, the priest said again. Do you accept Merida Gilmat as your wife in life and death? I do, Arad replied. The priest turned toward Mira. Do you accept Arad Orion as your husband in life and death? Of course I do. Mira stared at him. He then turned toward Merida. Do you accept Arad Orion as your husband in life and death? You have to wonder why I'm standing here wearing an uncomfortable white dress. She stared at the priest, her eyes glowing green. Of course I do. I mean, the priest stared at her. We have to go through this. I know we have to do that. Merida looked at Mira. What do you say? I mean, Mira scratched her chin. I'm a bit awkward around a lot of people. Just standing here is making my knees shake. Me too, Merida said with pout. I don't care about this. When will this day end so I can get into bed with Arad? That is why I asked Mira to join her here. She'll feel more comfortable with me at her side, and I won't have to wait another day. Her mind screamed. Arad looked at them with a wry smile. He can feel Merida's mind. This chapter is updated by Miqui. He then took a few short steps to the left, standing between Arad and Merida, repeating the same sentence. Bang! Just as the priest finished, the church burst open and two nuns rushed in, crying their eyes out. His face is red. What did I miss? A large man panted. Am I late? Alcott stood there, his eyes scanning through the church. Just a second later, his eyes stopped at Arad. Did it end? Arad smiled. Finished Aela's ceremony yesterday. Damn it, Alcott growled. Hey, don't curse in the church. A priest stared at him. I was walking past the Capitol yesterday when I heard they are preparing for Princess Isdis's marriage. I instantly knew it had to be you, but they were told you're supposed to be in the Elvish capital. Alcott tried to catch his breath. I was about to run all the way from the capital to the Elvish capital, but decided to stop here to check. I'm glad I did that. Wait. Everyone stared at him. You ran all the way from the capital to here in one day? Since my health is getting better, I'm slowly regaining my power and endurance. Alcott took a deep breath. How do you think I catch dragons that run away? Arad shook his head. Not by running after them. We humans are persistent hunters. No matter how long our prey run, the moment they turn around, we're there after them. Alcott walked between the crowd and stood in the front, blocking the view. I got to apologize to Aela after this. I missed her wedding. Alcott turned around, seeing Aela standing in the back. He waved his hand. Let's talk later. Thud. Ginger landed at the door on her broom. Alcott, you're too loud. Alcott stared back at her. Really? Ginger looked toward Arad. Sorry about him. He always used to be a ball of energy, but being sick in the last years tamed him a bit. She stared at Alcott with a smile. Now that he's getting better, his energy is slowly returning. Arad looked at the priest. Can we finish? Of course, as the priest carried on with the ceremony, Alcott blinked, turning aside and looking at the crowd with a sharp glare. Everyone in that direction flinched as the dragon slayer gazes grew sharper. Thud. Alcott took one step forward, pushing the men until he reached where the women gathered, staring at one of them in the face. I feel like I saw you before, didn't I? He glared at Vasilissa. What in the hell are you? A hellhound. She turned toward him with a smile. There are many women with black hair around. Aren't you mistaking me? I don't know. He glared closer at her face. My guts are telling me I know you, and I trust them more than anyone. She pushed his face away with her hand. Can you please not be a creep? Don't get too close. It's with my guts that I dodge deadly attacks and counterattacks. I trust them with my life. Alcott pushed back at her hand with his face. Ginger, he said. What is she, a vampire, demon, or a disguised dragon? This feels like the last one, you monster. Where are those gut feelings coming from? A perfected void dragon polymorph can't be told apart, not even by magic, and you're telling me you can sniff me off, Vasilisa growled inside. I was right to leave for good and stay away from you. You're a problem? She isn't a vampire or a demon, I'm sure of that, Ginger replied. But the magic inside her body is a bit weird. Nothing abnormal, but just strange a bit. She smiled. I'd say she might have a draconic bloodline, probably related to a dragon you faced before. Dragons live for thousands of years, Alcott mumbled. It won't be strange if their blood got mixed in humans. He backed away. Sorry for the trouble. I don't mind, Vasilisa replied. Just leave me alone. If this conversation kept up, your guts might start ticking again. Alcott returned to his place, watching the rest of the ceremony. Vasilisa stared at him from the sidelines. Alcott Demorian, the best man that human blood can offer of this era. It was first Adam, the first human, then his reincarnation, Chad, and now it's this man. I do play a lot of this projection, and I had countless children with it. But Alcott is the only one I spent a life with using my true body morphed into a human. Vasilisa shifted her eyes toward Arad. I doubt he knows how insane his father is. That man once died, and his soul punched the goddess of death in the face and ran back to his zombified body, taking back control to kill an elder lich. She smiled. Chad Lisworth, the previous best, had taken the position of a god while being a human, living till this day and dominating the heavens. And that being is the one supporting Alcott. Alcott stared back at her, still angry for earlier. Worried I'll report you. Nope, I was thinking that if you're that soft, you'll have paled a bit. He stared at her with a smile, and it was just then that she realized what his gaze was. Vasilisa stared around, seeing the women around her shaking with paled faces. The golden flash in Alcott's eyes, the predatory bloodlust of the werewolves. I messed up. I was so engrossed in my thoughts that I didn't notice it, she growled. One glare and they all started shaking and trembling. I don't care if you're a dragon, a doppelganger, or a devil. As long as you don't cause trouble, I won't bother you again. Alcott approached her again, but cause one problem, mess one thing, especially in his weddings. He glared down at her, his muscles expanding as his eyes glowed with a golden flame. I'll chase you to the end of the earth and cut you apart, said with an evil smile on his face. Golden divine lighting crackling from his hair to his massive neck. Bam, bam, bam. Alcott's heart started beating loudly, almost sounding like a faint hum of drums as the air around him rumbled. Vasilisa smiled. Don't start getting me turned on again. That's why I loved you out of all people. Of all the humans, you're the only one like this. What are you two doing? Arad approached them. You're scaring everyone. This man is threatening me. Vasilisa pointed at Alcott with a smile on her face. I suspect she's a dragon, Alcott replied, and I don't trust the ones that don't come clean. You're over-exaggerating, Arad sighed. Even if she is a dragon, I doubt she'll cause trouble. You might be right, Alcott stared back at him. But that naive thinking lost me several cities that got burned to the ground. Thousands over thousands of deaths. He glared at Vasilisa. All because I hesitated to gut a dragon I felt was a threat, but looked innocent. Vasilisa smiled at him. Try me. She giggled inside. Probably I should try him again. He's going to be fun. Come here. Ginger pulled Alcott by the ear, dragging him away. Sorry for the trouble. I'll take this muscle brute back home to relax a bit. Arad stared back, standing beside Vasilisa. Sorry for the trouble. No, I don't mind, she smiled. In fact, I like men like him. You have a child, he stared at her. Ah, I forget. At the day's end, Arad was resting in his house with the girls. getting ready to make their trip to the capital the next day when they heard loud knocking on the door. "You we," Tina called back. "It's Alcott and Ginger," Arad said, sitting on the couch. "Can you open the door for them?" "Already working on that." Tina opened the door. "Hey, how are you doing? Sir Alcott? Welcome. What brought you so late at night?" Tina replied. "Ah, look." He pulled a small magic bag from his pocket. "I got gifts for Arad and his wives." He smiled. "Since I heard, I picked some things on my way here. Please, come in." She moved out of the way. "Arad, how are you doing? Happy with your marriage?" Still didn't finish. Arad looked back at him. Alcott walked in and sat facing Arad. "I brought some gifts for everyone." He put the magic bag on the table and turned around. "I brought gifts. Those who want some come here." Ayala, who was in the kitchen, looked out at him. "You didn't need to." She walked out. Wiping her hands dry, Alcott pulled a bow from the bag. Working bow of magic, it channels the user's mana into elemental energy and infuse it. With it, you can fire arrows of magic even if you ran out of arrows. The most up-to-date novels are published on Chapter 608, Alcott's Gifts. Chapter 608, Alcott's Gifts. Ayala inspected the bow, smiling. "It's amazing." She pulled the string, and a spectral arrow of compressed wind emerged, whistling like the howling winds of the elvish forest. "It might not reach the same raw power of your steel bow, but it more than makes it in elemental damage and range. You have Zephyr. You'll never run of wind for arrows." Alcott smiled and looked at the door. "I know you're there. Come here before I stand to rip your head off." Click! Arad's main door opened. Vasilisa stared at him, standing at the entrance. "I hate those with a sharp sense, and I hate those hard to track." Alcott stood, and Arad beside him. Both rested their fists on their hips, creating a wall between Vasilisa and the girls. "Is she a problem?" "She only helped," Arad said, tilting his head. "Don't know. All I know is that she's a dragon in hiding, at least. Probably something else, at least not human." Alcott replied, strong and hiding her presence to look human. He tilted his head like Arad, only in the opposite direction. "It's only your guts. Don't forget that." Vasilisa, "Don't go around accusing people." Alcott giggled. His eyes turned white as a strange magic crackled through his bones. The muscles on his frame expanded a bit, causing his shirt to tear a bit. Vasilisa took a step back. "You're scaring me." "I'm not," Alcott smiled, pointing at the girls in the back. Their faces had paled, and their mana started flickering, their subconsciousness telling them to run away from Alcott. Arad looked at Alcott from the side. "What's this?" "Ha ha ha!" Doma laughed her ass off in Arad's head. All of the curses and tribulations he went through are sparking inside his body and soul in harmony. After a decade of decay due to the contradiction of the vampiric, lycanthropic, the undead, and countless shifts his body went through, they are finally starting to coexist. Vasilisa stared at Alcott, holding her smile. His power is coming back, and he might even surpass his peak. He's a human, but he went far beyond the limits. A creature, soon he might become the strongest creature that isn't a magic dragon or an outer being. Thud. Alcott dropped on the couch, putting one leg on another and taking a sighting. "I bet she's a steel dragon. Those bastards are good at hiding as humans. If you're here to watch over Arad, tell the Metallic Queen that I still didn't need to visit her palace. She'll love to keep it like that." Vasilisa walked into the living room and sat facing Alcott, putting one leg on the other. "Let's keep it at this. This conversation better not continue unless we want to trash Arad's house." She stared at him. Dominance, he means every word. He never had trouble with either the chromatic or metallic queens, but if someone is crazy enough to pull up on them, it's him. She remembered how he dragged Scarlet Ginger out of her castle, even though she turned him into a vampire. "You're right," Alcott glared at her. Arad stood in silence, his eyes jumping from one to another. "I've a feeling that I shouldn't anger any of them. Brother, where are you? I might need help here. Let's keep this under wrap for now. Alcott reached to his bag of holding, pulling a necklace. This is for Mira, a blue crystal tied with a steel chain. Someone might even say it looks bad, like made by the worst craftsman ever. What's that? Arad looked at it. My kobolds makes far better gear. Zephyr flew like the wind, latching to Alcott's face and glaring at his eyes. Where did you get that? Did you steal it? She screamed. Alcott laughed. No, I asked nicely. But those pixies were sweating when I pulled on them bathing in the spring of youth. What's this? Arad asked. And Doma answered in his head, fatal necklace. If the wearer dies, it'll shatter and revive them. This one has a curse on it that will teleport both the wearer and the one who killed them away. Right now, it'll take them to Alcott. You paid them? Right? Only one can be made a sentry, Zephyr growled. Those little ones need the money to survive. Didn't have the money on me, but I showed them where they could find an underground magic crystal mine that I found years ago in their forest that should cover their costs. Alcott threw the necklace toward Mira, and she caught it. If a mine there, it's theirs. Mostly the crystallization of the spring's water. Zephyr kept glaring at his eye, more annoyed than enraged. Finders keeps. I found it, so it was my property. I simply exchanged it for the necklace. He pulled Zephyr by the wings and sat her on the couch. Calm down. He turned toward Arad. You sit as well. My bag is full. Pulling a tsuba-less and handle-less katana riddled with rust. That's 3 times as long as a regular one. Merida, this one for you. He threw it toward her, and she barely managed to catch it. This is just a long blade, she growled, and rusty as she grabbed the blade, fungal veins grew from her wrist, melding the blade into her palm and expanding to the edge. They pulsed like a heart, casing their blade to seem alive. It's a fungus-based demonic blade that lives off the user's blood and in exchange never loses its sharpness or break, and it also gets naturally sharper as the wielder's blood gets more saturated with mana, meaning as they level up. Alcott smiled. You dealt with that fungus? I'm sure you can handle this one, and don't worry about your hand. It can be removed with a mere thought. Merida closed her eyes and the blade released from her wrist, not leaving a single mark. Where do you keep finding those things? Arad looked at him with a suspicious glare. He knew Alcott was strong and went through a lot, probably knowing more about the secrets of the world than anyone he had met, but seeing him pulling one thing after the other didn't seem right. In my past, I acted like a dog, taking what I needed and burying every item that I didn't need around the world so I could dig them later. He smiled. I just made a detour to dig some of them up. Probably why that thing is rusted. Learn to organize your stuff. You remind me of a woman I was with. Alcott looked away, poking his ear, always nagging about me leaving my clothes everywhere. Probably why she left you. I'm sure it's something else. Alcott looked forward, his face changing. I would have dragged her out of 9 hells if I could, but she just disappeared, and even I couldn't track her down. She might be dead. Zalissa giggled, shaking her head. She's alive. Alcott's eyes flashed gold. I can still catch a faint whiff of her smell at night and see traces of her face in the stars. Humans are persistent hunters. They chase their prey until they beg for death. Now give that human enchanted power and senses from countless curses and transformations, and you'll have a killer that can't be shaken away. Vasilissa smiled. Going back might not be a bad idea. Alcott swung his fist in the air. First thing, I'll give her a good beating for running away without a word. At least say something. Please don't. Arad sighed at his side. If she can evade me, I bet she's at least can fight. Alcott smiled. Well, she was a mage, but nowhere close to Merlin. If you think Merlin was better, Vasilissa stared at him. Why didn't you marry her instead? She turned me into a woman for a month, Alcott replied. And I prefer women who aren't shaken by my strength, or at least the ones willing to try killing me. Me too, Arad smiled, nodding. A hard life, Vasilissa looked down. The weak always dies around you, and you don't want that farewell to be with someone close. You two are really alike. You think so? Alcott reached toward his back. "Isdis," he shouted. "I got something for you. I bet even Baltos can't match it." Alcott pulled a black and gold-laced flute. The moment Vasilisa saw it, she lunged forward, swinging her hand to smack it from Alcott's hand. Alcott moved his hand, dodging her palm, and jumped toward the door. "Look, you're fast, aren't you?" Zephyr flew toward him. "Damn you, Alcott, that thing is supposed to be destroyed. Why are you still keeping it around?" Alcott laughed, opening the door and rushing outside. "Catch me if you can. I'll keep an eye on him." Vasilisa rushed after him, and Zephyr stared at Arad. "You better break that damned flute. It's akin to your nipple knife, a true damage weapon that targets the mind. If Isdis had that flute, she could control the kingdom's people like the rats in the Pied Piper. It had driven every user to madness and drenched them in the lust for control. Does it even have rules, or is it mind control? I did put some rules when I made it. I might be able to dispel the negative effects." This chapter is updated by Fren, chapter 609. Parents squabble, thud. Alcott landed outside in the grass, a smug smile on his face as he watched Vasilisa run out the door to chase him down. "What's up, Steel Dracaina? Want my little flute?" He shoved it in his bag. "Come and take it." Vasilisa growled. "The flute is a mere reason. He wants to fight." She took a deep breath and jumped. "This body is a mere projection, but I can access my stomach. I can pull enough steel to mimic a steel great worm. Don't blame me for getting rough." Vasilisa jumped, her right fist engulfed in shining metal as she swung at Alcott's face. Alcott caught her palm with a shockwave. "You can do better, can't you?" The nails of his right hand grew longer into claws, and he swung at Vasilisa's torso. She blocked, protecting her chest and stomach with a thick layer of reinforced steel plates, but they sparked claw marks remaining in them as she got blasted back. Werewolf claws, is he getting fine control over his curses? Vasilisa stood as one of the three cogs of balance. "I can't let that flute exist." "Fine, Alcott. You've been a handful since I met you, and this won't change anything." "You, really?" She stood, her eyes flashing green. "Want me to send you to the grave?" Steel scales started growing on her face and hands as two massive wings of countless blades emerged on her back. Kinryu walked toward Arad's house. "A Steel Dracaina? It's been a long while since I saw one." Thud. Arad landed beside him. "Can't you tell her to stop? We only found she's a steel dragon." "You found out? That's bad," Kinryu sighed. "Steels hate to get exposed. Dragging her identity to the light is like stripping her naked." He looked at Arad. "Of course she'll be furious. I won't stop her, even if she's facing Alcott." "Well, there was this flute." Arad told Kinryu about the flute, and his face shifted. "Once she loses, I'll beat some sense into Alcott. We told him to destroy that cursed thing." He rolled his sleeves, getting ready to join. "Mind control is bad. Mass mind control is worse. And mass mind control that drives the user insane and drenches them in the lust of domination is even worse." Alcott shoved his hand into his magic bag, pulling a long sword with a wide grin on his face. Vasilisa flew at him, swinging her palm and her claws extended, aiming for his neck. "Slash," Alcott said, swinging the sword, cutting her claws as she smacked him in the face, and both flew back with a blast. Vasilisa landed on her feet, staring at him and shaking her hand. "He's hard." Alcott walked out of the trees with her steel claws in his mouth, wolf's fangs filling his mouth, making his dental structure akin to that of an ape. He munched on the steel claws, cracking them as he approached. As he stopped, he spat the shards away. This taste forged what weak steel Dracaina. Of course they are forged. I'm pulling steel out of my stomach, not refining it like a steel dragon. She's been using metal from the weapons and structures she keeps in her stomach, her treasure hoard. Use something harder when fighting me." With a bored face, Alcott waved the sword in his hand, sending a slash of compressed blood flying at a blinding speed. "Hey!" Vasilisa cried, swinging her fist up and deflecting the slash vampire's blood manipulation. This gives him more range and options than he had before. Alcott disappeared, the ground where he stood exploding from the impact. Vasilissa's eyes jolted to the side following the inhuman movements of that creature, running on all fours like a wolf with a blade in his mouth. She as well lunged, moving out of his way and trying to catch up. Arad gasped, raising a barrier to protect his house. Was she that fast? A great worm-steel dragon couldn't expect less. Kinryu smiled, but that bastard Alcott, how in the hell he's moving like that? You can feel it, can't you? Arad looked at him. I know it's the lycanthropy curse. If a human can become a dangerous monster with that curse, what if possibly the strongest human, contending with dragons and hunting them, got it? Kinryu looked at Arad. I wasn't looking for an answer, more surprised. Does levels even matter at this stage? Arad sighed. The buffs gained from curses aren't. If a creature already has a powerful base, even if low level, the curse would help him close the gap. Kinryu stared at Alcott and Vasilisa flashing around, clashing steel at a speed unseen by humans. There is a reason why humans seek vampirism for the night, lycanthropy for the strength, and lichdom for the immortality. Alcott dodged Vasilisa's claw, pulling a mace out of his pocket, and swung at her. Crush, he shouted, blasting her across the forest. Alcott Demorian is a weapon master. Vasilisa thought, landing on her feet. His main attacks are slash, crush, and pierce, all using different weapons or even his body. Try wrestling him, and he'll dance with you, fight at close range, and he'll pull swords or maces, get a bit away, and he'll pull halberds and spears, chains even, and if you try to run, he'll snipe you with bows. She swung her hand, sending hundreds of spikes to cut his way. This projection of mine is magic-based. Fighting him physically, like this is a massive disadvantage. To beat him with those limitations, I need to hit him with a massive spell in a place where I can restrain his movements. She opened her mouth, sharp blades gushing out of her skin all over her body. Steel expansion, barrier enclosed blade storm, albeit being one of the weakest expansions Vasilisa can use, it's currently the strongest she can pull with that body and her fake identity as a steel Dracaina. It wasn't weaker than anything a steel worm might pull, but was considered above average in their ranks, helping her blend her identity. A massive 100-meter dome-shaped barrier traps the target within as countless extremely sharp blades infused with magic grow off the dragon scales, flying in every direction to rip everything inside the dome to pieces. Thud, Alcott jumped into the dome on his own, smiling as he approached Vasilisa, his arms wide open. I see. She's similar to most steel dragons I fought, relying on physical attacks, then trying to one-shot the target with a massive burst. Exhaust and kill a common tactic. He smiled, moving his hands up. But that doesn't mean I can't blast this thing apart. Its weakness is the barrier trapping me and the relatively fragile body of the caster. Alcott's nails extended into wolf claws as the clothes of his upper torso burst into pieces due to his muscles expanding, revealing a jacked, scar-filled, veiny body. Crimson blood leaked from beneath his claws, splashing outward as blades. Blood massacre. Kinryu gasped, his eyes losing track of Alcott's hand. For a split second, he looked armless to him. Even a great worm couldn't follow the abnormally fast moves the dragon slayer unleashed, reminding his old bones of the horror of being hunted with a burst. The barrier got dissected into small pieces, raining down with shards of steel as Arad protected his house. What did happen? I didn't see it more. Even a steel great worm didn't stand a chance against the dragon slayer. In the middle of the forest, they could see Alcott squatting beside the fallen Vasilisa, poking her face with his finger. Wake up, do something, he said. That kick shouldn't kill you. I held back quite a bit. I'll play unconscious for a while. This fight shouldn't keep up while I'm limited. I'll smite the flute later from the stars, she thought. Just wait. If I used my real body, you'd be the one laying beneath my claw faster than you can blink. Alcott pulled the flute from his bag, looking at it. Wake up. It's here. Do you smell it? He started shaking it. Like a stick to a dog. It's here, so close, you can break it. Vasilisa didn't respond, lying down motionless. At this distance, even if she were to move, she has no chance of outmaneuvering this hulking beast. Well, Alcott stood, lifting her up his shoulder. Arad should be able to dispel the side effects. Even I won't want Isdis to become a sadistic, enslaving witch. The chromatic and metallic dragons watching from the sidelines stared in silence. Who said we could gang up on him? One sighed. We were impressed by Arad's achievement and forget who's the real monster out there. The old hero is sharpening his fangs once again. It'll be a rough century. Arad, Vasilissa thought. Your dad could still whip your ass. Don't slack on growing your power. The most up-to-date novels are published on Chapter 610 power scales. Chapter 610 power scales Alcott stood in the living room, handing the flute to Arad. Can Doma disable the negative effect? Arad took the flute and looked at it. A cursed object, holding them always feels weird. There was a jester that used this flute to lead rats out of a village. He was the one who brought the rats in the first place and used that as a scam to extort money. I was there in an inn, so I chained his soul to the flute, creating the cursed object. Doma explained through a mouth appearing on Arad's arm. She smiled. That would teach him a lesson. Not that he's alive to learn, though. What was his name? Alcott asked. I never asked or cared. I just boxed him up. Now that you mentioned it, I don't even remember if he was a man or a woman, a human or an elf. It's been a long while. The flute started rattling as a black gust of smoke gushed from it, getting sucked into Doma's mouth. Without the negative effect, the flute's power got a bit weaker. It can now only control unpowered people, and the strain gets dumped on the user's mind, resulting in a headache. Isdis would be able to control around 20 people with it. Arad walked toward Isdis and gave her the flute. Use it well. Isdis took the flute, staring at it with a confused face. Would it work? She looked around, her eyes stopping at Tina. You can test it on me, but nothing embarrassing, Tina replied. Isdis would have tested it on her maids, but those two are trained assassins responsible for guarding her. They should be too strong for the flute to work on them. Isdis put the flute on her lips and blew in it. A gentle tune filled the room as she stared at Tina. I don't feel anything. Tina looked at her hands. Is it working? It is. Doma giggled, poking Arad's mind. Tina, can you bring us something to drink? He said based on Doma's instruction. Tina slowly turned toward him with a passive face. Sorry, but I'm busy now. Busy with what? Arad asked. Tina ignored him, turning back toward Isdis to check if the flute was working. Even she won't realize the spell is working on her right now. And based on what control Isdis wants, Tina thinks she's Isdis's maid, and she would ignore orders from anyone else, the same way she'll ignore an order from a stranger, Doma explained with a giggle. Isdis stopped playing, but Tina didn't get back to normal. I need to release her manually. She then played a small tune, releasing Tina from the flute's grasp. Tina blinked twice, her face burning red as she turned toward Arad. Master Arad, sorry for earlier, she cried, realizing she just rejected an order as if it was natural. She quickly turned toward Isdis. I said nothing like that. Don't worry, it isn't a problem. Arad smiled. Now we know the flute works, and that the affected won't realize they are controlled. Alcott sat on the couch and pulled another object from his pocket, a chalice filled with spikes glowing with power. Iris, this is for you, Alcott called with a smile on his face. Zephyr sighed. I'll not even ask again. Don't worry, this one is safer. A bit. Alcott laughed. The elder blood chalice. Wasn't that supposed to be in Vlad's castle? Iris, who stood at the kitchen door, stared at him, confused. It was until I went there years ago and took Ginger out. Alcott sighed. I did think I killed the bastard then, but he seems to have survived. Vlad is like a cockroach. He always finds a way to come back. That's why he ruled the vampires for centuries. Zephyr sat on Arad's head. I hate to think about it, but there is a chance he survived your Ho-White Nova. Arad started thinking. Even if he did, I would have weakened the vampires to a point they never were at before. Stranded, landless, and rankless. The abused lands around them would find a chance to thrive and fight back, and soon their legacy as the night's horrors would end. It might have already ended if Vlad died, but if he didn't. Zephyr looked down, green magic sparking in her eyes. I'll deal with him if he returned. You protect everyone? Can you even fight him? Arad looked at her. Is wind effective against immortal vampires? Zephyr turned toward Alcott. He doesn't seem to realize it yet, she said. Alcott sighed, Arad. Even if everyone here banded together, we won't stand a chance against that little spirit on your head. Kinryu nodded in the back. World powers are creatures that can end the world or have an ability that allows them to do that. Zephyr there is one. Atmospheric collapse, Zephyr flew to Arad's face and stared into his eyes. I take the entire air of the world and crush it down on the surface, flattening everything. I can even absorb or change its composition. She waved her hand, and Arad could feel an extreme pressure building on his skin. I'm not even trying, and I could flatten you to the ground and everyone here if I felt like it. Humph. She shook her head, canceling her magic, and flew into Arad's chest, hiding inside his shirt and poking her head out. Since I'm a peaceful free spirit, people tend to forget and underestimate my power, especially the short-lived humans. A mouth opened in Arad's neck, smiling. Want to test it out? I can create a powerful lamp using the rotting corpse of the great wind spirit. Curse witch Doma, Zephyr smiled. If you took full control of Arad's body, I admit that even I might have some troubles tying him down, but I'll still win. Vasilisa opened her eyes, sitting up. Are you okay? Alcott asked. Yeah. She looked at the chalice. Explain to Eris how to use it, she said, before looking at Arad, seeing Zephyr and Doma glaring at each other. Zephyr fighting Doma, a close fight, she thought, but Zephyr would win in the end. Doma lacks in mana capacity compared to someone who's tuned to the wind of the world. She cracked her neck. But about Vlad, I don't sense him anywhere in the world, but if he's hiding somewhere and dares show up, I'll pull him up to space if Arad can't handle him, then take my time showing him why no one messes with Orion. The most up-to-date novels are published on. Chapter 611, Mother's Gift. This chalice, Eris lifted the spiky, weird goblet and stared at it from the sides, sensing the magic flowing from it. I heard stories about it, but never expected them to be true. Believe me. Alcott looked at her. It isn't as useful as it sounds. He pointed at the chalice. The more skilled as a vampire you are, the more useless that thing would seem. Drink blood from it once a week, and your blood healing will restore mana and stamina on top of health, granting you an almost endless supply of power as long as you have blood. Eris said, waving her hand over the chalice, I want to try it. Vampire blood control is more about skill than actual abilities and spells. It's like trying to do a flip. Everyone has the limbs and muscles to do it, but few can, and even less master it. Alcott waved his hand. Ask Ginger to teach you. She almost never runs out of stamina and mana when using blood magic. Thud, did you call me? Ginger appeared behind him, and Alcott slowly turned, sweating. Ginger pulled Alcott by the ear. You left me and rushed ahead. Do you know how hard it is to keep up with you? Ah, W, my ear, Alcott gasped. You could have teleported or flown behind, couldn't you? Arad's blast was impressive. I saw the hole it left. But I doubt Father would perish from such a thing, and my blood magic didn't expand, meaning that he's still out there. Ginger growled, staring back at Arad. Father is still alive, there is no mistake. If he died, I would have grown stronger as the next in the bloodline. Vlad is the blood king of vampires. Ginger would take his throne and become a blood queen if he died. A mouth opened on Arad's face. The only way to kill him is for Arad to eat him. Would my stomach be able to digest him? Brother wasn't able to eat that demon lord, and he's an adult. Arad tilted his head. Is there a way to train my stomach? Thing about beating Father first? Then think if you can eat him or not. Ginger stared at them. I doubt you can fire that thing again. Arad smiled. In fact, he giggled. I've been slowly compressing matter inside my stomach by removing its void. I've already amassed 1/10 of the Nova's power, but it's getting almost impossible to control anything over this, and it would explode. The girls looked at each other. You really love to play with fire, Aella said with a smile. The spell is simple. Why won't I try it? Arad looked at them with a grin. Albeit, the simplicity is the problem. The goddess used brute force to achieve the Ho-White Nova, flexing her power. To us, it's like telling us we can flatten a mountain by sneezing. Arad looked at his hand. I do not have the energy output, mana control, or time magic to stabilize the Nova on my own. Then how about you start learning magic for real? I gave you that book about gravity magic. Merlin walked out of nowhere, just teleporting into the room as she sensed Ginger's presence. Ginger, it's been a while. I heard you exploded into a labyrinth. Tell me how it happened later. I'm sure it's a fun story. Not even close. Merlin looked down. Arad looked at Merlin, pulling the book out of his stomach. Already finished it, and it's useless. It only details how to use gravity magic based on the user being a human. As a dragon, I can scale things with sheer force, but's not magic designed for dragons. He waved the book. I need dragon magic, not human magic. There aren't that many dragons capable of using gravity magic, let alone ones willing to share their skills. To us, it's a part of our hordes. Kinryu looked at him. I would have given you something if I had it, but sadly I only have fire, sleep, and gold magic. I dabbled into lightning, but it's been a pain. A dragon mage. I can only think of brother, but I doubt he had enough time to develop his own gravity magic. I knew he developed dragon's ice magic. Arad remembered, probably I should start researching magic on my own. That's your best bet, Merlin looked at him. I'm a human and can't research dragon magic based on my body, or you can try your luck asking other dragons. An object's gravitational force is directly related to its mass. Vasilisa looked at Arad. As a dragon, you naturally change your mass when shifting from a dragon to a human form. That's why your feet don't crush the ground beneath you. She waved her hand, pulling a book out of her pocket. As a dragon, you can inscribe the magic on your scales or wings, which can assist in the cast. Try elevating the Nova's mass until it collapses on its own and starts pulling matter. At that point, you won't even need gravity magic to grow it. She threw the book to Arad. Then I can isolate it with my void, and I only need time magic to stabilize it and explode it at will. Arad smiled and opened the book. You did research draconic gravity magic? Don't ask questions. Vasilisa glared at him, then looked away. Think of it as a wedding gift, since this Buffon doesn't seem to have brought anything to you. She pointed at Alcott with her thumb. To think a steel dragon knew gravity magic, and I didn't know. Kinryu stared at her. Why didn't you use it against Alcott? Mind your own business. Vasilisa glared at him. Kinryu giggled, waving his hands. Mutual respect? We metal respect the privacy of others' hordes. You don't need to tell me if you don't want to. Arad had read a few of the book. With this, I might be able to pull the Ho-White Nova after evolving once. He smiled with an excited face. Vasilisa looked at him, thinking with a smug face, excited about a Ho-White Nova. Wait until you know that you can compress it further to create an all-consuming black hole, then compress that to create a time-space fissure that erases everything it gets close to. Follow current novels on Ibron, Chapter 612. Blood Droplets in the Night. Chapter 612, Blood Droplets in the Night. You really didn't bring him anything? Vasilisa mumbled, staring at Alcott from the side of her eyes. As a dragon, Arad doesn't need magic items of money from me, Alcott replied, staring forth. He'll find more use to skills, training, and guidance. I'll show him how to hunt monsters he never hunted. How to take down those stronger than him and survive in this world. That's something you'll do, she smiled. As they talked, Merida stood in the back, glaring at the busy living room with a slightly sore face. She sat on a chair, staring in silence. Aella approached her. You can go sleep if you're exhausted. It's been a long day for you. Merida stared at the sword Alcott gave her. I appreciate the gift, but I would have taken a night of silence. She leaned the blade on the wall, sighing. I feel some bloodlust on me, Alcott mumbled with a worried smile. Did I do something wrong? Who knows? Vasilissa whispered back to him. She's glaring at us. Arad walked into the garden, staring at the night sky slowly shifting as dawn approached. With Alcott here, they barely got any sleep. It wasn't a problem for him, but he wasn't sure about the girls. Especially Merida, she seemed a bit agitated. The girls were already waiting down the hills, ready to ride the carriage. Arad took a step, his eyes glowing with a bright purple light. The dragons awaiting around the area moved, shifting their heads and staring toward him. They could sense the magic shifting as Arad was about to transform, the mana twisting and twirling as his void excited the very existence of the void in the matter of the whole area. A dominant dragon, ruling over the land not just with might, but with the magic released from his body. The red dragon's general smiled. He would have made a great conqueror. Arad's steps left a burning purple flame in the ground that quickly faded, leaving no trace as the magic dissipated into the air. The stars in the sky trembled, and veins of purple magic flashed across his arms, sending a quiet hum into the air like an engine revving up. His body started expanding as his scales sucked the mana from the air, showing up as dark purple patches on his face and arms. Click! A woman stared out of a window, yawning as she rubbed one eye, staring at Arad with the other. It's Baron Arad's. Arad's body shifted, his arms extending and wings growing out of his back as he leaned forward, transforming into his draconic form as his tail whipped into the sky, crackling with magic. As he sat up like a cat, staring into the night sky, his scales emitted a faint purple light, blending his shape into the endless space as the woman stared from the village, looking up toward him. Is everything all right? Ayla asked, standing beside his claws. I'm checking through the animals. We'll leave as soon as I make sure everything is okay. Arad replied, opening his wings. The wings had a faint light to them, showing a shimmering star pattern that blended into the sky. The wings amplified Arad's magic, extending the range of his dominance over the forest's animals. The place is clear, but there is a pack of monsters trying to move into the eastern side. Arad stood flapping his wings and flying into the night sky. Vasilissa stared at him take off. Those aren't any monsters. They look like vampire familiars. Probably that one I killed wasn't the only loyal blood-sucking fiend outside Vlad's kingdom. They do choose the worst time to attack. I got a bad feeling. Alcott looked into the sky. I smell blood. He pulled a sword. I'll go after him. Let him go. Vasilissa held him by the shoulder. Arad can handle them, she smiled. I can smell them from here, vampire familiars with a high vampire. I would say around level 90. Level 90, Alcott looked into the forest. Depending on how experienced they are, he might have a problem. You're right, Vasilissa nodded. Level merely shows how advanced you got into your classes. It only means you have more skills and higher base stats, but not necessarily how you use those skills. Merlin approached. Since by level 20, any mage has the potential of learning 9th tier spells and cast them if he has the mana, it means any development after that is how to use the powerful magic. It's a measure of option how many styles a person could use in a fight. Zephyr sat on Merlin's head. Fight as a mage, pull a sword and charge, then summon the power of nature like a druid. Alcott looked at her. As a high-level being, how does it feel? Like using tools, she replied. Arad landed, glaring forward as the horde of monsters appeared. Shadow-engulfed wolves, snakes, bats, and hawks burning in a dark red eldritch flame surrounded him. You, a man growled, you're that accursed dragon who blasted our kingdom? He walked out of the darkness, enraged with blood magic boiling out of his skin. How dare you? How dare me? Arad looked at him, prowling around and forcing the monsters to evade his massive claws. To him they were no more than the grass on the ground. Vlad killed a city behind my back, Arad said, his jaw clapping like a bear trap, his opal teeth reflecting the moonlight. lusting for blood. Since when was it wise to insult a dragon? Humans live to be our food. The vampire growled. The same for you, dragons. You eat them, don't you lie. The vampire sniffed the air, and you're a vampire as well. You must know how blood tastes and how worthless the lives of those holding it are. Two vampire women appeared from behind him. A dragon you might be, but a vampire going against the Blood Lord is a sin, one of them said. Arid nodded, shifting back to his humanoid form. I see what you mean, he smiled, fixing his hair. Then when will you give me your blood? Suddenly, one of the women's heads burst, burning into ash as a flash of light illuminated the trees. Her corpse fell down, and even her vampire regeneration was unable to keep up for some reason. The remaining two vampires gasped as lightning flashed from Arad's back, linking to his chest. I got a wedding to attend. Don't waste my time with mind control blood magic. Arad looked at them, only his eyes glowing with a bright purple flash. You always pick the worst time. The source of this content is Brightupt, Chapter 613, Dreams of Desire, Chapter 613, Dreams of Desire, we have our plans. The vampire growled, glaring at the woman's corpse beside him. Something is halting her regeneration. His magic is abnormal. In the blink of an eye, the vampire blasted forth toward Arad, swinging a claw of crimson blood at a blinding speed. Arad grabbed the vampire by the hand, spinning around and smacking him in the face with the back of his fist. As the night spawn flew back, he saw Arad's foot flying toward his face, crushing his nose into his skull and sending him toward the trees like a tomato toward a bad actor, spilling red juices everywhere. The vampire smacked into a tree, his eyes watching as the second vampire woman ran toward Arad, her body turning into mist as she phased between the trees. Arad remained standing in his place, looking forward with a gentle smile, uncaring as he couldn't feel a threat from those beings. Rip him apart, she cried, pulling a flame-engulfed blade as the beasts surrounded Arad, trying to attack from all directions. Arad lifted his foot, smacking the ground and shattering it, sending shards of stone and dirt flying everywhere in a burst of earth. As the small beasts got their lives ended by that, the following sparks of lightning jumping from Arad's body finished the rest, forcing the vampire woman to take a step back. The raw power of a barbarian, the discipline of a fighter, and the magic of a wizard, is he over level 60? She growled, and a vampire dragon over that. No wonder he blasted the kingdom. She ducked, shifting back into mist and slipping between the mess, swinging her sword at Arad's neck. In the meantime, the other vampire rushed to heal the first woman, inspecting her wounds. Arad saw the fiery blade rushing toward his neck like an axe seeking a tree. He shifted his neck to the side, dodging it like a deer turning at the last second, dodging a lion's leap at its neck. As she realized her hit missed, the vampire woman pushed further, increasing her speed to send a kick toward Arad's face. Arad opened his jaw, clenching his teeth on her foot and ripping her toes off with a single bite. She gasped, staring at the blood rushing off her foot. Arad remained standing, unfazed as he spat her munched flesh on the ground. Gross, what was it again? Vampires stronger than you have bad-tasting blood, or was it the weaker ones? Hearing him mumbled, she kicked him in the stomach and used that to get some distance. Folla, I fixed Sarah's neck. She'll heal soon, the vampire shouted from the back. He isn't the one that blasted her head. It's a curse within his soul. Then come and help me, John. She landed, her foot fully healed. This bastard is strange. I know we're higher level than him, but he feels off. The two stared at Arad as Sarah's head regenerated. Arad stood there, waiting for them to attack. He's mocking us, John growled, lunging forward with a claw strike toward Arad's face. Arad dodged, but the vampire quickly shifted his body, punching him in the neck. Stop underestimating us, he shouted, pulling Arad's throat out with his claw. You'll regret attacking our kingdom, he laughed. That's it! Fola rushed after him, swinging her fire sword and stabbing Arad's chest, pinning him to the ground. Sarah finished regenerating and lunged forward. That hurt, you bastard. Blood rushed from her hand, freezing into a long red blade as she swung. assisting Fola in turning Arad's chest into a piece of Swiss cheese. Ha, ha, ha. The vampires laughed their lungs out, rolling on the ground as Yuaku dangled her bare feet from a tree branch, staring at them with a passive face. Arad flapped his wings, landing behind the tree she sat on, and looked forward, seeing the vampires writhing on the ground. "What's going on?" he asked. Yuaku turned toward him. Fear of the unknown, it turns into confidence after being solved. She turned to look at the vampires. They feared you, so upon seeing my face, they saw immediate death coupled with the fear of their vampiric regeneration not working. Then, after a few moments, they got familiar with your face and started fantasizing about winning, pulling their desire into their dreams. Yuaku jumped from the tree, took a few steps toward the vampires, and looked at them with an emotionless face. Those who see me get pulled into the abyss, they can't resist the urge to jump. She turned toward Arad. Right now, they are beating you over and over as you cry for help, ask for forgiveness for blasting their kingdom. "I'm standing right here," Arad replied, staring at her. "It's their dream." Yuaku stepped on Sarah's face. The vampire woman's body withered as every sign of life faded from her, leaving a crumbling husk akin to dried leaves. A nymph is the incarnation of beauty. Instead of showing them a desirable body, I showed them a desirable wish. She walked toward Fola, stepping on her face and crushing it like an egg. The same way people get blinded by the sight of a nymph, the same way they die upon seeing us naked. I can simply kill them like this. She looked toward Arad. Ribrea. Is it illusion magic? Arad approached her. "I'm sure I didn't see you cast magic." He looked around, his void eyes not seeing a single thread of magic in the air. "Zephyr and Merlin are great teachers, but the little pink girl is better," Yuaku replied. "She taught me how to shift the nature of my beauty. You must be joking, that's impossible," Arad sighed. "It must be magic, and who is this little girl even?" Yuaku blinked. She called herself the great demonic goddess of destruction, annihilation, and patron deity of the orphans and the lost, she replied. "A god won't walk among mortals. She must have tricked you." Arad expanded his wings. "If you can take care of the situation here, I'll head out with the rest to the capital. Sorry, as we can't take you with us." "Don't mind me. At the time I'm bound to the forest. I can't move even if I want to." She finally smiled. "Bring me some gifts. I'll make sure to bring you a lot." Arad flew into the sky. "Didn't expect you to keep my name." A high-pitched voice came from the forests. A tiny little girl with pink hair walked, her twin tail reaching her feet, dragging on the ground. "Kali," Yuaku stared at her. "You asked me not to tell him. I was joking. No one would believe that." Kali clapped her hand with a smile, and the vampire's body flattened into a sheet of paper, burning in a pink fire in the blink of an eye. Destroyed and annihilated, as all things should be, except for chocolate and strawberry. I like those two. "They get a pass." She started laughing with a prideful stance. "It's almost dawn," Yuaku said. And Kali's laugh paused. "Oh, myself, I must go," she growled. "That was supposed to be, oh my God." Yuaku stared at her with a passive face. "I'm myself's God. But Daddy Caden might get worried and blow this whole place, and I'm afraid of Mother Lily. She gets terrifying when she is angry, like the demonic worms of the bottom layers of the abyss." Kali waved her hand, turning to leave. "I don't know what that is." Yuaku stared at her. Long worms made of eyes and mouths dripping with stomach acid and rot worms digging through their flesh as they scream like 100 men getting ripped apart. Don't imagine it. It gives bad dreams. Kali ran away, racing between the trees like an excited baby goat. Read latest chapters at Ewer et Chaupt. Only chapter 614 challenged at the gate. Flap, flap. King Baltos sat on a chair at the highest tower of his castle, watching the sky with unease. Arad was a powerful dragon, but still held the boundaries of dragons, a manageable threat. But now that he can blow the whole kingdom into the sky in the blink of an eye, it's getting harder and harder to think of a way to defend against him if he turned against them. "It was the right decision back then," he mumbled. remembering the noble that Arad killed after he tried to attack Mira. A Twilight Emperor with an opal star of death. I still remember him munching on a cow leg like a black marmot on a carrot. Your Highness? They'll be here soon. Kin approached from the back, bowing as she looked forward with one eye, her vision piercing the clouds, spotting Arad and the dragons in the distance. I say, an hour at most. He's carrying people in a carriage. What's Jin doing? Baltos turned, asking, making sure no one dares to cause trouble. The last thing we want is Arad getting enraged and blasting the whole capital to ash, Kin replied. We ratted everything out and made sure the whole wedding ceremony was guarded with triple the force that was at your wedding. Arad, Isdis, and all of their guests make sure we don't have a reason to worry. Kin went back into the castle, leaving Baltos alone, watching the sky. In the past few days, he had made sure everything was ready. Food was enough for all the dragons, enough seats and protection. He didn't leave a single thing he could think of without planning for it. All he can do now is hope. Nothing goes wrong. Time passed, and he could see Arad and the dragons show above the mountain, parting the clouds as they approached. He stood with a smile. Better get ready to greet them. He was about to head to the castle's courtyard where he prepared a massive landing platform, coupled with a band of bards to greet them. He stopped, sweating. Why are my senses tingling? He looked back, seeing Arad and the dragons slow down before entering the city's air, hovering right outside the wall. Hoy, don't land there, he cried. I understand the chromatic dragons, but not you, Arad. Arad slowly lowered the carriage to the ground until its wheels touched the ground, and he landed, followed by the chromatic and metallic dragons behind him, blotting the forest as they sat down. The metallic dragons quickly shifted into their humanoid form to save space, while the chromatic dragons and Clog found empty places where they could sit without smashing anything. The guards of the walls rushed out in a panic. They were notified that Arad and the dragons were coming, but they had prepared for them in the castle's courtyard, not here. Surround them, prevent any citizen from approaching, especially adventurers. The head guard screamed his lungs out, looking around for a certain idiot that just returned to the capital. Ho, ho, a buff man cried in excitement. How beautiful. It's the most dragony-looking thing I've seen in my life. He stood, black flames burning from his eyes. Calm down. A woman sighed beside him. That's the king's guest. We were told not to make troubles, but the man turned toward her with the biggest smile ever. Look at it. That dark purple scales and glowing eyes. It's majestic. I agree, the woman replied. No, I'm talking about that green one in the back. Look at those thick arms and legs. He pointed toward Clog. Is it wrong that I want its children? No, but I would prefer the purple one. She giggled. The guild also said we should keep down for now. I'm not keeping down. The man lunged forward, burning like a black meteor. Clog's head turned rapidly, spotting the adventurer flying at her with a raging lust. The hell? She dodged by twisting her neck, smacking him in the back with her front left claw and sending him to the forest. The adventurer hit the ground, digging a trench before coming to a halt. He gasped, opening one eye and looking at her. Ah, that felt amazing. Human, what is your problem? Clog stared at him, confused for a bit, but in the back of her head she already knew what the idiot wanted. Attacking out of nowhere, a blue dragon growled, "Let me smash him down." Let him be? Clog growled at the blue dragon, my prey, and he isn't Alcott, so it's not a problem. Alcott looked out of the carriage. I'm not such a problem, you are. Kinryu stared at him. We can take anyone down except you. It's been a rule among the metallic and chromatic dragon that no one is to fight you alone unless they want to die. The adventurer stood, barely injured, as he pulled 2 daggers out of his magic pocket, S rank, level 145, titled The Black Flame and still single at the age of 35 years old. Nice to meet you, beautiful lady. You remind me of that excited random idiot going after the princess of the Western Republic, even though he knows she's already married. Clog walked forward, her claws leaving marks on the soft ground. Seen a lot like you, I'm not interested. Not only beautiful and stunning, but intelligent as well. Let's make a family, he approached, his arms open. Listen, I'm stuck as a dragon, and you're stuck as a human. It won't work, Clog sighed, and you being an S rank means nothing. Dragons love power, he took a stance. I shall prove myself your way. Let's fight. He lunged forward, swinging his dagger at her face. Alcott sighed in the carriage. Going for the head is stupid. He should have gone for the front left claw. He noticed that Clog's nose was between her eyes and the claw, making her reaction to attacks in that location a bit slower, and should have given the adventurers a better chance at landing a hit. Clap, clap, smacked the adventurers back toward the forest with her head like a giraffe. Arad sighed. Why do people think they can take on a dragon head-on, just because Alcott can? He turned toward the wall, seeing the other woman waving her hands, chanting in an unknown language. New novel chapters are published on your UKARM Chapter 615, Roar of the Void, Chapter 615, Roar of the Void. I swear I told Baltos to make sure no such troubles start. Arad opened his jaw, roaring at the woman. She smiled. Look at those pure white fangs. They would work well in my pot. Her nails gleamed with eldritch green magic, channeling into marking across her body before a tiny ball of magic appeared in front of her. Eldritch Eraser, a beam of green magic burst from her hands, flying toward Arad at a blinding speed. Meridel. Arad opened his jaw, blocking the beam with a compressed breath of the void, and erased it. If you can cast magic, it means you can think, Arad said, staring at her. Stop attacking at once, or I'm afraid I'll have to beat you down. My wives are in the carriage, and I don't like to fight near that. I'm a witch. I'll try my luck, she smiled, pulling a crystal ball, and several dots of magic appeared floating around her. Let's see what can you do. Witches are known for being worse than wizards when it comes to experimenting on stuff. While the wizards of the tower study to push the magic development further and give humanoids an edge against monsters, witches experiment for their own pleasure and power, seeking benefits only for themselves, often causing plagues and destruction with their failed concoctions. Arad's massive body disappeared, leaving a tiny dust patch floating on the ground. The witch gasped, instinctively shifting her magic to protect her body with a barrier. Arad flew past her, his eyes leaving a purple trail behind as his palm approached the witch's chest, smacking into the barrier at a blinding speed. She gasped, feeling the impact across the barrier as her body rapidly accelerated backward, jolting her limbs and almost tearing them off. She flew back across the city, reaching the sea in the blink of an eye. The witch gasped, looking at the blue sky, her guts and chest twisting in agony from the impact. As she looked up, she could see Arad in his humanoid body standing between her and the sun, looking down with a passive face. I said, I can't fight you close to my wives. He pulled me all the way here? With no magic, she couldn't believe what happened. The barrier she formed is supposed to be stationary, unmovable without spells. What did you do? She growled. Arad didn't bother to answer to him. She only stood between him and Isdis's wedding. I shall not entertain your experiment. She flew at her, kicking her in the stomach with enough force to send her flying into the sea, staring down, slow casting. You lost the moment I got close. He flew back. Hurry? No. The witch sank deep into the sea, her mind dancing between dreams and reality, casting a spell. Takes time. He smacked the barrier before it got completed, and thus blasted me as it hadn't been fixed in place yet. Raw speed and power. The reflex and cunning mind of a dragon. Her eyes closed. I should have used another spell. Clog smacked the adventurer again and again, each time he stood back, jumping at her with a smile. Give up, you're annoying, she growled. The only reason she came was to attend Arad's wedding. It'll sour the mood if she killed a human, or at least that's what she thought. Watching people deal with idiots like this man looked easy, but now that she was having it thrown in her face, she could finally understand why she hated them. You aren't getting anything. Never, ever. Clog growled. Get back to your human house and get busy with your human problems. That's best for you and everyone, a goat. Even if it flew, I'll chase my chance till the last breath. Come to me, baby, he cried. How do I deal with this idiot? Harad invited me. I don't want to be left out next time, just because they think I might kill someone. Zon Arad appeared between her and the adventurer, looking at him with a passive face. Black flames hotter than white or blue flames. Is that why you're an S rank? I'm quite skilled with weapons as well, he replied. Now get out of my way. I want her, not you. Arad, I'm not the one causing troubles. It's him, Clog pointed with her claw. Can I just kill him? She growled. I'll deal with it. Arad looked back at her with a smile. You sit back and relax. He then turned toward the adventurer, the gentle smile that was on his face replaced with a passive, cold glare. Can I have a quiet marriage? Arad said, taking a step toward the adventurers. I might need to give 5 an earful out of nowhere. Arad opened his jaw, unleashing an ear-bursting roar. The ground around him vibrated as everyone closed their ears in pain. The people living on the other side of the capital could hear it reverberating in their chests, shaking the windows as they gasped for air. How it's so loud, Clog growled, barely standing her ground behind Arad. No, it's weaker on our side. That adventurer is having it worse. She realized the flow of magic around Arad. The void had formed a thin barrier, muffling the sound going back while leaving the majority blasted toward the adventurer. Arad's anatomy wasn't like that of humans, and was vastly different from other dragons made of flesh. As a creature adept at living in the void of space and speaking with telepathy, he didn't have innate vocal cords, and that is why he couldn't speak in his wormling stage as a dragon. By that time, his body adapted to the air, producing sound by using the void to vibrate the air down his throat. This had made it possible for him to speak even when out of breath, without moving his jaw, and even produce far louder sound than any other kind of dragons can. The adventurer's ears bled as the fine veins in his body burst, his bones cracked, and his brain trembled from the roar, and his consciousness faded away as every cell of his body was about to burst. He fell face first as Arad stopped his roar, staring at the adventurer with a passive face. Doma said to try it, but who knew it would work this well? Arad turned, walking back toward the carriage as the adventurer fell to the ground. The whole city turned to stare at the wall, wondering where the roar came from. That was loud, Clog approached, staring at Arad. Is your throat okay? I'm fine, Arad replied with a smile. Arad? Izids jumped out of the carriage, running toward him with a smile. That roar, it was like that one on the island, but louder. Arad looked back toward the adventurer. Doma said I could use my voice as a weapon, so I tried it. Not all people come prepared to face that. The roar of a dragon loud enough to pierce ears and shatter bones, Izids looked around, would make for a great tune, a poem for generations to come. She waved her hand. What would you write? He screamed so loud, he almost killed a person. Arad looked at her with a smile, resting his fists on his hips. The majestic roar of a dragon, loud, deep, and heavy. She waved her fingers in the air, dropping snow from her palms. Bone-chilling, shaking, and crumbling screech, bursts like an explosion, and sends a message. If you can't handle the dragon's roar, then don't bother fighting, as what is to come is even worse. The closest sound that I heard was the orange dragon's explosions. Kinryu smiled, walking toward them. When their white breath touches water, it explodes, read latest chapters at work. Only chapter 616 before the capital's big ceremony. The guards rushed out of the capital's gate, seeing Arad walk toward them. Lord Arad, those two are, I know. Arad stopped, looking back at the unconscious man in the back. I'll talk with 5 about them later. Behind the soldiers, Arad could see Jin staring at him with a passive face. I saved that witch, Jin said. I found her almost dead at the bottom of the sea. I can't believe she survived in the condition you left her in. She was aiming her spell at me, but the carriage was behind me, Arad replied. She's lucky I didn't rip her head off. Crushed ribs, lungs, and stomach, Jin looked back. If not for the protective magic she had on her body, she would have been crushed by the sea pressure if she survived that smack of yours. Coming from me, Arad walked toward the carriage going past Jin, is considered holding back. See that one? Jin looked forward, seeing the soldiers confused about how to handle the bleeding adventurer in the back. How is he doing? Jin asked the soldiers. My lady. A soldier looked at her. For the lack of a better word, he's completely fucked. All bones cracked, bleeding internally and externally like a smashed orange. His brain isn't responding to magic, so we suspect it's got damaged as well from the roar. The healer with the soldiers growled, "To think a mere roar can mess a man this badly." I never heard of a sound dragon. Jin looked at Arad. Do they exist? Why ask me? I don't know, Arad shook his head. I thought you saw one and used their roar. Well, no new discovery for me today. She waved her hand, lifting the adventurer with magic. Arad walked toward the carriage, seeing Izdis standing at the door, awaiting him. Are you done? Arad nodded with a smile. Yeah, we should head to the city. Arad grabbed the front of the massive carriage, pulling it with ease. Arad Izdis stared at him. Those were S ranks, she looked back. And Arad looked at her. You beat them just like that? She waved her hand, pulling the flute and looking at it. I thought they would be far stronger. They are strong, Arad replied. But the fight ends quickly when you exploit someone's weakness. He lifted his hand, conjuring a ball of blue flame. That man could produce black flames. I cannot burn him, and he could burn me to ash. He has immunity to flames from fire monsters, and the firepower to blast any non-resistant monster to ash. It's just that, Arad smiled, looking forward. He didn't have resistance to sound, making him as weak to it as a baby. Izdis smiled. And what about that witch? She wasn't a wizard, right? Yeah, she's a witch. I noticed her mana slowing down after she cast that beam, and I learned she's a bit slow when casting magic. So you exploited that opening to smack her down. Izdis looked at the carriage. Who can do that besides the gnomes? Except Alcott, Merlin, Zephyr, Nina, and the dragons. I doubt any of you would have even picked up on her slow casting, let alone exploited it. He waved his hand so quickly. Izdis could barely see it. This is how fast you need to be to notice her mana recoiling. You seem stronger than last time, Izdis smiled. Did the labyrinth leave something in you? After getting limited to a human body, I learned how to efficiently use my body and power, conserve energy, and watch enemies for opening to exploit. Arad smiled, and Jack looked out of the driver's seat. Damn it, I can fight fair and square, but I'm going for that nut shot. Arad looked toward him with a grin. Exactly. Izdis sighed. You two are alike. She looked forward as they walked past the city's main gate, seeing a parade of soldiers blocking the sidewalks, standing ready with their swords up. We welcome you, the soldiers shouted. Arad stopped pulling the carriage and looked at the soldiers. Horses? They are ready. 4 knights rushed forth, riding majestic black steeds. They stopped before the carriage and started tying the horses to it. Arad was the city's guest. They can't let him keep dragging a carriage through the streets. At the street's end, Baltos rushed on a horse, finally stopping beside Arad with a worried face. Thank the gods you're fine. Izdis stared at her father. The city is fine, she smiled. Unlike most people, she understood his dilemma. Arad was powerful, far more than what the human kingdom could handle. Izdis knew her father didn't hate Arad or fear him, but the possibility of someone triggering him up and the whole capital getting crushed as collateral damage was real. Baltos sighed in relief. When I saw you landing outside the castle, the blood dried from my veins. Did you expect us to land in the castle? Arad pointed at the chromatic dragons outside the city. Exactly how? They land outside, and you land, and they land in the castle. Baltos looked at Kinryu. You got the notice, right? I indeed got Kin's letter, Kinryu smiled. But it won't be fun and disrespectful to the chromatics if we metallic landed outside. So I rejected the idea. Kin walked from behind Baltos, approaching Kinryu. I'm sure I explained it well to you. Kinryu laughed, patting Kin's head. You've grown, but still need some time to learn. He looked at the Red General outside. We meet here peacefully, but this is a frail peace treaty. It's based on equivalent exchange and rights. None of us can stand taller than the other, or it might be taken as an offense. The Red General growled. Kinryu smiled. Didn't expect you to be that intelligent. Even so, Kin growled, at least inform me if you rejected it. How were we supposed to plan for it? We reply to confirm and to reject. If you didn't hear back from me, you should have planned as if I didn't receive your message. You still need some time to learn. He looked at Baltos. But you're taking great care of her. Thank you. Do you know, Kin, you two seem familiar? Arad looked at them. She and Jin are my granddaughters. Kin smiled, seeing them reminds me of how old I'm now. 8,569 years old, 869 years in Dragon Age is close to 85 years old in human age. Kinryu sighed. I do remember the old days when we flew alongside Bahamut. It seems like yesterday. Or the days that bastard Cain roamed the lands. The Red General laughed. The fucker was a white cockroach armed with 9th-tier magic. Do you remember his father Chad beating the previous chromatic Dragon King, swinging him around by the tail? Don't remind me. I was terrified, unable to believe the bastard was a human. New novel chapters are published on Chapter 617, Arad's Presence. Chapter 617, Arad's Presence. Sitting on a chair inside the church's cabin, Arad looked at the walls. It's all the same everywhere. This church is bigger than that of Alina, albeit with a different architecture than the one in the Elvish capital, Izdis said, lifting her hands up as Merida pulled the straps on her back, trying to squeeze her into the tight dress. You'll do with the diet, Merida growled. Did those breasts of yours get bigger since the last time I measured you? Izdis laughed. I wish she touched her chest. But it's probably my lungs. I've been practicing with air instruments lately, and it takes quite the breath out of me. Larger lungs, larger chest, and it makes the breasts look bigger by pushing them forward. Merida looked at Arad. She had large breasts, but it made her a bit sad that even his chest was bigger than her, pure muscles and bones. Churches are built for different gods. Arad touched the walls. This is for Amaterasu, and the one in the capital is for Sylph, right? Goddess of the sun and the goddess of the elves, Izdis replied. A red sun over the emerald paradise. Those two were known as one of the strongest in the Age of War, and are still powerhouses of legends. Not that matter to us now. Arad looked at them. Don't tell me she doesn't fit like Aella. I'm trying to stuff her inside, but we might need Zephyr's help again, Merida replied with a growl, trying to put a bit more force into strapping Izdis down without ripping anything off. I'll go call Zephyr. I'm sure she's out somewhere stuffing her stomach. Arad stood, heading toward the door. Can't you just locate her? Izdis stared at him, like you do with everyone. I can, but it feels strange. She can sense me trying to find her, and always looks back at me, Arad replied. She's the wind spirit after all. Merida giggled. Send her our way. I do need her help here. She slapped Izdis's back. This one isn't going to fit. Keep trying. Izdis stared at her as Arad left the room. Look, it's him, a nun gasped, seeing Arad walk out of the cabin room looking like he just woke up from sleep. But it was just him, feeling exhausted, having to deal with the girls not fitting in their wedding dress again. He's huge. I never seen him this close. Another one beside her whispered, seeing Arad's head towering over the wall murals. He's even bigger than the paladins, the first, Nun whispered, following Arad with her eyes. I'm sure he'll look better in a plate armor. No, he looks like the kind to wrestle bears in a forest bare top and win. Arad stopped and turned toward the nuns, his eyes looking far behind them at the church's gate. He could sense a flow of wind magic coming in, meaning Zephyr was probably outside. The two nuns gasped, looking away. He spotted us. Idiot. He probably heard us. Arad blinked, walking toward the nuns. He not only heard them, but could feel their thoughts flowing as clearly as the sunlight coming from the windows. I definitely stand out among humans with this size. I know it's natural, but who in the hell was my father for me to look like this? A giant? No, probably a titan. Your father was a human, I can assure you that. Mom said, "What kind of humans grow this large?" Arad sighed, looking more tired to the nuns. Arad stood before them, their heads barely reaching his chest as he glared down at them. They stood between him and the door, not realizing they were in his way. "Baron Arad, do you need something?" one of them asked, sweating as her legs slowly took a step back on their own. Her neck hurt from looking up. "I was going out to look for someone," Arad said in a calm voice, a smile on his face. "Do you mind?" He pointed at the door behind them. "It can't be opened with them in the way." The two immediately jumped aside, their knees shaking. They heard his roar earlier, and they heard how he punched a witch from the city's gate all the way to the sea. They looked at his hand, his palms larger than their faces, and his arms putting their thighs to shame. Baron Arad. One of the nuns gasped. Citizens are gathered outside the church, waiting for the wedding ceremony to start. "I don't think it's a good idea to walk outside." Arad stopped, his palm grasping the doorknob, and he stared back at her. "The guards are stopping them, right?" "They but you don't know what might happen." She tried to speak, but started stuttering. The more he glared at her, the weaker her legs and neck got. Arad smiled, patting her head. "Don't worry, they are annoying, but there shouldn't be any danger for me." The nun fainted the moment Arad's hand touched her head, thinking he was about to crush her down. As she fell to the ground, Arad stared at her, confused and sweating. "What? I didn't do anything." He looked at the other nun, terrified. "Since when did humans become this fragile?"
"Baron Arad, please don't worry,"
the other nun gasped, shaking the unconscious one. "She'll be fine, probably too much stress." Arad stared at the nun for a few seconds, even more confused, but he quickly remembered the time he spent in the labyrinth. For a human, no, a nun that never got into a fight, I must be a terrifying monster. "Do I look scary?" Arad looked at the other nun. She paused, staring at him. "I won't say that." She looked away. "It's just expectation. I bet any of us would die if you just bumped into us." She got scared when I touched her head. Arad looked at his hand. "Probably I shouldn't do that anymore." His eyes shifted toward the nun, glaring at her. "Anything else I shouldn't do?" "Probably. Don't glare at people like this." "It's scary," she mumbled. Arad blinked, rubbing his eyes. "Glare. I was just looking at you while speaking. You're tall, and your eyes are sharp and glow with a faint purple light. Even an innocent look can seem like a mad glare." She looked away, "especially when you look down at someone." Should I avoid eye contact? I don't know. She started shaking the longer the conversation went, the more stressed she got. "Sorry," Arad stood. "I'll keep that in mind from now on," he smiled. "But please keep in mind, I don't bite. I'm not as dangerous as you people might think. That's relative. It all takes one mistake to offend or enrage you," the nun said. "You can slap me in the face and I won't get angry. It takes specific offenses and intents to get me to hit someone back, like going after my wives and land or harming someone I care about." He pulled a healing potion and put it in front of the nun, in case she got hurt when she fell. Arad then went outside. This content is taken from Chapter 618, The Tiny Eater. Chapter 618, The Tiny Eater. As Arad walked outside, the people around the church started cheering and shouting. The soldiers struggled to keep them on the sidewalks, blocking them from rushing toward Arad. Arad's eyes panned around, glowing with a purple hue as they scanned the air for magic. He could see strands of green wind magic trailing in the streets, guiding him through the buildings to where Zephyr was. Ella and the rest are still inside the church. What is that fairy doing? He took one step forward, disappearing like he never was there. The people fell silent, then all screamed, an event he less magic-savvy folks could realize. It wasn't a normal teleportation spell. Chantless and fluidly mixed into his motion, the epitome of what mages strive for. On the other side of the city, Zephyr sat on a table, munching on the side of a whole roasted turkey. She waved one finger, and the whole thing got smaller, fitting in her mouth. She munched, then spat the bones out, each one getting back to their original size the moment they got out of her lips. It looked like a magic trick, which it was. Where is she fitting all of that? The maid serving her the food mumbled, walking toward the table with another turkey, looking back at the pile of bones. 2 cows, 30 chickens, and now this is the 5th turkey. Don't forget the salad, drinks, and bread. Count everything. Zephyr looked at the pain, patting her stomach. I still have a lot to go. Is the lamb done yet? I have a wedding to attend. Almost done. Please eat this first. She laid the turkey on the table, staring at Zephyr with a strange glare. Do you need anything else? I would have kicked you out if you didn't already pay. The maid sighed, remembering how Zephyr dropped them a bag of gold. She hadn't even reached half what she paid for. How much can this thing eat? Zahn, as the maid walked away. She hit something large hard. She looked up, seeing Arad looking at her with a smile. Are you okay? Gee-why, Akla, 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 she screamed her lungs out, terrified. Her mind instantly recognized Arad and panicked. Zephyr turned toward them and waved her hand. Calm, the maid could feel her head clear out like water washing dirt from stones. She blinked, staring at Arad with a blank face. What? She mumbled. I came looking for Zephyr. No need to be scared. Arad walked past her and sat facing Zephyr. What are you doing? Zephyr looked at the maid. I can smell the lambs from here. Bring them on. She waved her hand, shouting, and the maid rushed back to the kitchen, confused at everything. Answer, Arad sighed, looking at the pile of bones left by Zephyr. Aren't you like the elves, only eating plants or something? I can indeed live on the morning dew alone. Zephyr smiled. 1 lick off a grass blade a day is enough to keep me alive and well, then? He pointed at the bones. You're too small. I doubt you can use all that food. He lifted an eyebrow. Where is it even going? First thing you got wrong. Zephyr lifted a finger, eating the turkey's leg. Elves and pixies are herbivores, but we, fairies, are omnivores. I, for one, prefer flower nectar over all else. I saw you suck on flowers before? Second thing you got wrong. She spat a bone out. I probably need more food than you, especially when I intend to fight. The bone she spat returned to its original size, falling into the pile. Alla's mana isn't enough to sustain me at full power, and neither is you. That's why I need to eat, and a lot she kept eating. To put it simply, I'm bulking up before Vlad shows up again. I'll be the one to put an end to him, Arad growled. I'm not counting on that, Zephyr smiled, and I don't want to see Ayala sad, so I'll be taking care of him. I'll kill him first. Arad glared at her, and she giggled. I'll let you try, but I'm not letting Vlad kill anyone. He won't. Now let's head back. I need you to help Izdis fit in her dress. Arad stood. Wait a moment. She looked back, seeing the maid from before approaching with 5 other people, dragging 2 roasted lambs on a massive tray. It's here! Zephyr waved her hand, pulling the 2 roasted lambs with her wind right in front of the maids. The 2 lambs shrunk to be as small as bugs flying toward Zephyr's mouth. Where is the sauce? Zephyr stared at them. Sauce? Where is the lamb sauce? Zephyr lifted the whole tray with her winds, finding the small pot hidden in the lower section. I knew he put it somewhere. She pulled it toward her and drank the whole thing, spitting the lamb's bones right after. Seeing you eat is horrifying, Arad said, looking at her thinking, do I look like that when eating? No, I eat the bones as well. Zephyr shrank the wine and honey barrels into tiny cups in her hand and drank them whole, wiping her lips clean with a massive smile on her face. It's been a while since I had a full meal. Will this really make you stronger? Arad stood. Zephyr stared at him with a smile. Arad was watching her magic flowing like normal green waves of wind-aligned mana pulsing from her body. Nothing out of the ordinary, but then everything in his field of vision turned green, then shifted into a blue color. He couldn't breathe and could feel all of his body itching under massive pressure. Rear, mare, me, he jumped back as far as he could, but the feeling didn't change. He looked up, seeing Zephyr's massive hand falling upon his head. He closed his eyes, trying to conjure a barrier to protect himself, but then felt her tiny hand on his forehead. Calm down. It's just the side of my mana. Shut your void eyes and take a deep breath. I'm still small, and no matter how much of my mana is in the air, you can still breathe it normally. As Arad opened his eyes, he could see Zephyr floating in front of his face, 2 holes left on the ground where he stood before he jumped. Might not look like it, but I'm a world power. Keep that in mind, she smiled. The source of this content is air. Chapter 619, The Royal Wedding. Chapter 619, The Royal Wedding. I'm here. Did anyone call me? Zephyr flew through the keyhole of the door, waving her hand as she approached Izdis and Merida. Arad opened the door and walked in. I brought her, finally. What took you so long? Merida stared at him. I was eating. Zephyr waved her hand, and Merida could feel the resistance on the straps drop. You can tie her now. Thank you, Merida smiled, tying the straps on Izdis's back, pulling hard enough that she gasped. Don't tighten it too much, Izdis cried. You're a princess. I can't let my clothes look bad on you. Merida tapped her back. Go, show the nobles what I got. Are you treating me like an advertisement? It's once-in-a-lifetime chance. Merida giggled. I'll have to take my chances. As they talked, they heard someone knocking on the door. Arad immediately knew who it was. Come in, he said. The door slowly opened and Ayla walked inside. Looking around, is Zephyr here? She immediately spotted her chilling on the counter beside the makeup. What happened? The link between us suddenly burned hot. The magic you supplied me with almost quadrupled, Ayla asked with a worried face. You aren't sick, are you? If I was sick, you'll get less magic. Zephyr flew toward her. I just had a decent meal. We weren't starving you. Ayla looked at her, confused. I was starving myself. Zephyr waved her hand. Keeping a lot of pressurized wind inside me will ensure that I vent it often. That usually takes the shape of tornadoes and typhoons. Natural disasters are the result of spirits venting their pent-up energy. Zephyr was protecting the lands from herself by starving and limiting her own power. You intend to fight, Vlad? Ayla glared at her. Of course, do you think I'll sit here and sunbathe? Zephyr stopped. Probably I'll do that, but after I crush that blood-sucking fiend, Ayla sighed. Let's leave this talk for later. The people are waiting outside. We need to get the ceremony started. Arad stood. She's right. Baltos said he wanted to hold a party in the castle afterward. We can't keep wasting time here. Izdis rushed to stand at his side. Let's go. Arad opened the door and walked out with Izdis. He could see the people starting to enter the massive church under the guard's surveillance, making sure they stayed out of the way. As messy and unorganized as they seemed, most of them were the kingdom's nobles fighting to stand in the front lines. The marriage of the kingdom's princess was bound to attract a lot of attention. Some wanted favors, and some just wanted to be remembered as present at the wedding. Small deeds like this rack up to the nobles, Izdis whispered to Arad. Not attending my wedding could get them in trouble, like being called over it later, or even being rejected land and favors from my father. Are you sure that's it? And they can't afford to offend you? For all they know, you could blow the capital into the clouds with a sneeze. She giggled. And it would be awkward for them to try doing business with you later, when they didn't even attend your wedding. I feel like it both makes sense and doesn't, Arad mumbled, standing with Izdis in front of Amaterasu's altar. The priest approached them, looking at both with a book in his hand. We meet today in front of Lady Amaterasu and the gods of her pantheon to celebrate a happy occasion. The wedding of our Princess Izdis Leoruris and the protector of the capital, Arad Orion. He opened the book. Princess Izdis, do you accept Arad Orion as your husband and promise to share the throne with him in case you win it? Izdis smiled. I know my wedding is far more impactful than the average wedding. The fate of the whole kingdom could possibly be hanging on the line, but I do promise to do my best for the throne and the prosperity of the kingdom." She looked at Arad. "I do accept Arad Orion as my husband, with all the responsibility aligned with that." The priest smiled, turning toward Arad. "Arad Orion, do you accept Izdis Leor Ruris as your wife, knowing the full weight and responsibility aligned with her blood and heritage as the princess of the kingdom? With this step, you'll be in line for the throne alongside her." "It is a responsibility far too great," Arad blinked. "Becoming a king means I'll get a bigger land and more treasures for my hoard. Of course, I do accept her as my wife. Why would I be standing here otherwise?" Arad smiled. "And for the kingdom, as a king, I dare anyone to try landing their hand on it." Everyone could feel it, bloodlust dripping from Arad's words as the air around them felt thicker, making it harder to breathe. The nobles knew Arad was powerful, but didn't expect his mere bloodlust to strangle them. "Calm down." Zephyr flew and sat on Arad's shoulder. "Don't imagine it. Your bloodlust is getting out. The mana reacts to the person's will and conjures the magic. It's how people can cast spells, and it's mainly controlled by the brain. When a creature wills death or imagines himself ripping something to shreds, that intent gets carried to their mana and ends up ejected out. The resulting waves are usually far too weak to do any damage, but they start having an effect when the power difference between two creatures is far too great. Creatures have started training and evolving to sense those waves as a form of telegraph for violent actions. If someone intends to stab you, those waves will come before the strike, signaling the threat. It was thus called bloodlust. On the other side, some powerful creatures discovered that those weak waves could be weaponized against those weaker than them. If the bloodlust is coming from an extremely powerful creature and is directed toward a weak one, the effect could become real, and the will of death will manifest. In simple terms, the bloodlust of an ancient dragon could kill an ordinary man. Arad took a deep breath and stared at the nobles. "Don't worry. As long as you don't cause trouble, everyone will be safe," he smiled. "Right now, no one of them could breathe under his bloodlust." "Aham." The priest cleared his throat, lifting a small gold-laced white pillow with 2 rings on it, a silver and a gold one. New novel chapters are published on Chapter 620, The Royal Wedding, III, Blessing. Chapter 620, The Royal Wedding, 2, A Blessing. The priest lifted the pillow, reaching with it toward Arad and Izdis. "Sir Arad, Lady Izdis," he said with a smile, "please take the rings." The 2 rings were of simple design, one made of silver and the other of pure gold, glittering under the faint sunlight sneaking out of the church's chiseled windows. Arad took the gold ring, and Izdis took the silver one. The priest looked around and then whispered, pointing with one finger at the back of the altar. "It's written there if you didn't memorize it." Arad stole a glance. Amaterasu's binding vow was clearly engraved on the stone altar. "Tie now the crimson thread," Arad said. "Tie now the roots of our blood," Izdis added. "The rose so that we may not be separated." Arad closed his eyes. "The amaryllis so that we may not come part." Izdis closed her eyes, and the sun in the sky flashed brighter than ever. Dance around the sun, praying. Arad and Izdis put the rings in each other, fingers chanting in one voice, until the day it implodes white weir. Diom, the moon, started bloating, the sun drowning its golden light, dyeing the sky crimson as the black dot in the horizon flashed red as if dripping blood. It sent terror into the people of the capital. An eclipse, a once-in-100 years event that's linked to Amaterasu's wrath and interest. Scholars suspect it's the goddess's way of nerfing her own powers with the help of the hair of the moon in order to peek into the mortal world, whether it's to kill or to bless. Golden and black chains emerged from the ground beneath Arad and Izdis. Child of nothing, spawn of the desolate space, a voice boomed across the church, and none could move a muscle. They could feel her sitting on top of the head of her own statue, glaring down. Arad tried to lift his head, but his neck refused to move. What could the sun grant the void around her? You really like to waste time, don't you? Zephyr said, staring up with a tired face. You're hurting them. Do your business and get out of my land. She could see her as clear as the sun in the sky. A tall woman with fair skin, crimson red nails, and coal-black hair, twice as long as her body. Most of it tied into a ball on her head with several pins and decorations. She wore a large Eastern dress, flailing open from above her knees and down. She smiled, her blood-red lips seeming to reach her ears as she glared down with her heterochromia eyes, one as black as the eclipse and one a blazing red sun. You've grown great wind spirit Zephyr. Hurry and go. She started hushing her, or I'll tell Grandma. She'll get angry. She's dead drunk on In My Heaven. Good luck contacting her, Amaterasu giggled. But you're right. I'm only here to deliver a friend's blessing. She doesn't want to show up. Amaterasu waved her foot and the two rings in Arad and Izdis's hands glowed. Jemima's blessing. As long as you wear those rings and there are plants in your vicinity, you'll have a passive regeneration and neither of you would die while the other is alive, and the rings aren't destroyed. Amaterasu started floating up. I'll save my blessing for someone else. Her eyes panned around the church, landing on Eris. I do not bless soft women. Take note from Lydia, child of blood. The ground beneath Arad's feet cracked, and his right arm moved a hair strand. Veins bulged on his arms and neck, and the void inside his body boiled, raging to rush out. Zephyr stared at him, a bit confused, but understanding. How in the hell? Void-born are monsters. Amaterasu smiled. First, he almost barged into Sylph's inner room, and now he's trying to move in my presace. An impressive display of power and will, but for now, I'll take my leave. She flew out like a bee, leaving a glowing trail behind as the eclipse instantly disappeared. The people gasped. What was that one gasped? I felt something. Did you feel it? They looked at each other. To them, it was but a flash that their minds almost didn't register, leaving only the faintest feeling of being in divine magic for a brief moment. The priest started crying out of nowhere. Even for a brief moment I felt her presence. Our goddess has looked upon us. Izdis blinked twice, her hands shaking. What happened to the rings? She asked, looking at Arad to see him sweating with veins bulging on his face and neck, looking enraged. He gasped. Arad took a deep breath, citing, Zephyr, you could move? He glared at her. Of course I could. I'm a great spirit, remember. She flew to sit on his shoulder. I'm more surprised you were conscious there and even managed to move a bit. She looked back. No one here beside you and me was present there. To them it was a mere feeling, as fast as a flash and as gentle as the warmth of the sunlight. Why was she here? I thought the gods never interacted with the world, Arad growled. I won't say never, but Amaterasu is more active. She sets the sun and raises it every day, after all. Zephyr waved her hand. You can see her like a pesky, cheeky, and haughty noble mom with a heart of gold. If you got her attention and are still alive, congratulations, you'll only get benefits. She wasn't after me. Arad looked back toward Eris, who stood there, her mind elsewhere. Why do I feel like, she mumbled, the purple plasma inside her chest burning like a star. I need to ask Lydia something, in the depth of her veins and within her flowing crimson vampiric blood. A holy spark flashed. Zephyr stared at Eris with a worried face. I heard stories from Grandma May that Amaterasu once created a holy devil. Don't tell me she's trying to make a holy vampire now. The most up-to-date novels are published on Chapter 621, Arid Winds. Chapter 621, Arid Winds, Izdis stood staring at her golden ring with a smug smile. She looked at Arad. This concludes the ceremony here. Arad nodded. Yeah, Baltos have a party prepared in the palace. A fancy wagon should be waiting outside. He then blinked, drawing Zephyr's attention. "What's wrong?" she asked, and everyone looked at him. "A few bandits are trying to sneak through the eastern gates as the guards are busy here with the ceremony." He turned. "They knocked one of the remaining guards with poison and are trying to silently kill the rest and get the keys. I'll quickly deal with them." "Stop." Nina looked at him. "Let's leave this to the guards. Just notify the ones here. I can blast them with a spell." Merlin waved her hand. "Where are they exactly?" Arad looked at Nina. "It'll just be simpler if I dealt with them." He didn't want anything interrupting the wedding, but sadly, bandits are still thinking humans, and they won't miss such an opportunity to slip in. "I did want to move a bit." Zephyr's body started glowing green as she grew into the side of a human, standing as tall as Aela. "Arad, give me a long sword with its sheath and a belt to tie it to my back as well." Arad waved his hand, pulling what she asked for out of nowhere. "Here you go, but do you intend to fight melee?" "I'll limit my speed and strength and test some moves on the bandits. I'm sure I'll need to weaken Vlad with physical combat before blasting him away." She smiled, tying the blade to her back and sheathing it. "I'll scale the moves later." Bam. She lunged forward, running toward the door with a green shimmer. Zephyr's body phased through the door like air, slipping between the cracks in a gust of wind and reforming behind it. Baron Arad, the head guard, approached. "What's happening?" he asked. "Bandits trying to slip through the eastern gate." "She'll deal with them," Arad replied with a passive face. "What?" he cried. "We need to mobilize the guards at once." "What guards would you mobilize? Carry on with the wedding as planned? The one going after them is an even bigger monster than you can imagine." Arad turned toward the priest. "He's right." The priest put his hands together. "We pray to the goddess of the sun, the goddess of the harvest and renewal. But we never forget the spirits blessing those lands, the one who keeps the balance." The nuns stopped moving, lining after him. The golden rays of the glorious sunshine send down a blood-red light, forcing devils and evil to retreat to the shadows. Arid winds across the mountains, moving life throughout the lands, and after humans came to transform the ground, the priest said, looking at the crowd. "When the wind is slow and the sun is down, the monsters wait to see what comes. When the air blows through with a brisk attack, the evil gets ripped apart. It's how nature balances itself." Zephyr ran through the street, refraining from using any power above what an average human would. She expects Vlad to be almost 3 times stronger and faster than her physically, while overpowering him in magic and range by a landslide. She took the first turn in the street, running so low to the ground she almost looked to be running on all fours. She lifted her hand up, touching the hilt of the sword on her back. To mimic such conditions, she dropped her physical powers to 1/3 of that of an average man, while limiting her magic to twice what a normal person could unleash. Everyone's goal was to get rid of the bandits as soon as possible to go to Arad's wedding. But she had a different mind. Zephyr could see the eastern gate where the bandits were. She rushed in, jumping through the window. "I can crush him with one pressure spell," Zephyr thought, but smiled as she saw one of the bandits' face twist in panic as she jumped in. "No, I can't be too careful. I can't be too prepared. Simulate the fight and wash the rust away." She thrust the sword, stabbing the bandit in the groin. The bandit screamed, bending forward in agony, but that was his ticket to getting his throat sliced as Zephyr swiftly pulled the sword and swung up. Crack. 2 bandits rushed out of the next room. One pointed his crossbow at her, while the other threw a bottle of wine at her face. Zephyr wanted to hide behind the bandit's corpse, but there was no such wall when fighting Vlad. She took a step forward, lifting the blade up and forming a thick gust of wind around the sword. Pew! The violent wind shifted the bolt's direction a bit, causing it to barely miss Zephyr's face, scratching her cheek. She then quickly ducked to dodge the much slower wine bottle. As she dodged out of the way, she saw the wine bandit rushing at her, swinging a long sword. "I can't dodge in time. I don't have the speed." The sword went right through her neck, chopping her head, but not a single drop of blood was spilled. The bandit's eyes opened wide as he saw the inside of Zephyr's neck being hollow like a ball. Zephyr's arm moved, grabbing the bandit by the groin when fighting men. Always go for the balls when underpowered. She clenched her fist, ripping them off with her long nails. As the bandit rolled on the ground, howling in pain, Zephyr's head reattacked. I do not keep my nails long or paint them green for looks. I already stopped caring about that. I keep them long to rip stuff apart, and the green pain is a poison that stops blood from coagulating and increases pain sensitivity. She swung her hand, splashing the blood back on the bandit as she turned to face the crossbow one, her eyes glowing green. Gee, the bandit gasped, his knees shaking as he saw her take a step toward him, hunched forward. Give me your balls. He turned around, crying as he tried to run away. Zephyr threw the sword at him, stabbing him in the back. He stopped, seeing the blade poking out of his chest. Lifting his hands, he thought about pushing the sword back out, but soon felt a hand on his groin. I said, "Give them to me." With a swift pull, she ripped his treasure off. As the bandit rolled on the ground in agony, others started showing up upon hearing the screams. I remember now. Zephyr smiled, staring at the ceiling. I didn't use to go for the groin to beat those stronger than me, but I went for them since it's a fate worse than death. She looked at the bandits with a smile, ripped their balls to break their bloodline, crippling their whole lineage, and watched them suffer for the rest of their lives. Backed, in me, the bandits stared at the bloodied ground, noticing the pattern. What's in the hell? One gasped. What did I do for women, though? She stared at them. Well, I'll remember soon enough. It's been a few centuries. The source of this content is AASLORER, Chapter 622, Natural Disaster. Wind. Zephyr took a step forward. I don't see any women among you. She approached the bandits, her body swinging from left to right, leaving a green trace as the tip of her sword scratched the ground. Kill her. One of the bandits kicked a chair toward her, rushing after it to attack with a mace. Zephyr ducked forward, swinging her left palm and catching the chair from the leg. She took one step forward, pushing it on the charging bandit, blocking his mace with ease and knocking him back. He gasped, trying to step aside to smack her, but she spun the chair with one hand, entangling his arm in the mace, pulling him down. Zephyr quickly kicked him in the groin and then clenched her left fist, leaving her middle finger bulging out. With two swift jabs, she smashed his eyes into his skull, then crushed his throat as he recoiled back from the chair knock. As the bandit fell down, screaming, the remaining bandits rushed into the room all at once, over 7 of them fully armed with swords and crossbows. Bitch? Who are you? One of them growled, pointing his crossbow at her head. The one who killed them. Zephyr pointed down at the dead bandits. I know you did it. I asked, who are you? Myself. Zephyr smiled, mocking him. The bandit couldn't handle her smirk, releasing the bolt immediately toward her eye. Zephyr swiftly moved her head out of the way. She knew he'd fire, and she taunted him for that reason. Taking the chance, she rushed toward the bandits, swinging her sword. 4 of the bandits carried swords. They all swung at Zephyr simultaneously as the one with the crossbow stepped back, reloading. Zephyr dodged the first swing, but the other 3 got her. 1 cleaved her neck, and the remaining 2 diced her torso like it's a sausage. The bandits smiled in the blink of an eye. She died faster than they expected. Zephyr's body reattached as she bent forward, swinging at the bandits' ankles, cutting 2 of them down. As they fell, she stabbed one in the ground and kicked the other one, crushing his jewels. "How is she alive?" one cried. "I didn't see blood." The other screamed, turning to run away. The running one was forced to a halt, feeling as if claws dug into his groin. Cutting air is stupid, isn't it? Zephyr whispered into his ear, pulling his sack out like a rotten orange. The other bandit dropped his sword and lifted a chair. "No, cut, then smash!" She swung the chair at her head, screaming. "Right. I used to rule my land with tempests, and anyone who didn't suit me got a tornado at their door. Even more, bandits rushed into the room, armed and enraged. Who is she? Why didn't you kill her yet? A fully armored man growled. Zephyr lifted her hand, closed except 2 fingers, which she drew a line in the air with, taking the shape of a wind wave. The furniture in the room rattled, and the candles got extinguished as the drapes flapped, the shadows danced, and Zephyr disappeared, her sword falling on the ground. The room was still well lit from the sunlight coming from the windows. "She ran away," the armored man growled, rushing toward the window. "Wearing a codpiece, how luck," Zephyr whispered into his ear, and he turned around, terrified. She was nowhere to be seen. Zephyr's sword flew from the ground, cutting the man's armpit as it was lightly armored. He cried, dropping his sword as the other bandits gasped, terrified at seeing the sword move on its own. The armored bandit spun around, flinging his fist at the sword. "You bitch, you're there, aren't you?" he screamed, but soon got cut again on his other armpit, back of the knees, and finally throat as the sword danced around him. "You can't neither see nor hit the air," Zephyr giggled. "Good luck in your trial with the gods." The bandit fell, his soul going to the afterlife to be judged. "I'm not even trying." Zephyr's left eye showed to the bandits, glowing with a green light. What, to see something horrifying? "She's there! Fire!" a bandit shouted, releasing his crossbow bolt at her eye. The bolt flew right through Zephyr like she was nothing. "Well, I'll show it to them on you." She appeared fully, as by the rule she sat doing both at the time would be going over her magic limits. She tapped her foot on the ground, and the bandit's chest collapsed inside out as his rib cage shrunk into the size of a grape, squishing his organs and pulling his head into his chest. The bandits stared at their friend in silence, unable to understand what happened. He would have survived if he had the faintest knowledge about magic. Zephyr sighed, pulling a chair and sitting in front of them, putting one leg on the other. The spell had no resistance. A kid could have rejected the effect if he tried. Zephyr stared at the bandits standing in front of her in silence. "Won't you attack? What are you?" One gasped, falling on his knees. "A natural disaster," Zephyr replied, switching her legs. The bandits fell on their knees, begging for their lives. She stared at them for a while, amused. "I do like seeing you like this," she stood. "But the best one of you had killed 5 people, and they all died begging for their lives." "I know, since all souls in my domain pass through me." She lifted her foot, putting it on one of the bandits' heads. "Squash it is," she flattened him to the ground. The bandits tried to stand and run, but all their heads got pushed toward the ground with a solid stream of wind. They gasped, struggling to move, but there was no escape. Zephyr took her time, stepping on each of them and crushing them to the ground. She only left one at the end. "For you," she smiled. "All of them are going to the gods' trial, where they can either go to heaven or hell, but let's be honest, it's clearly hell." She kicked the chair that was behind her away like a horse. "I'll test something even more horrifying on you, but in exchange I'll allow your soul to reincarnate as a human so you get a second chance. No memories, your brain won't survive this." She lifted her foot up with a vicious grin. Wind expansion. Zephyr flew out of the building in her fairy form, humming with a smile as she buzzed her way toward the castle like a bee. That was refreshing. When the guards walked into the building to check on the bandits, they found them all dead on the ground, but something caused them to turn back, puking in horror. The whole room was covered in red, blood-stinking foam, and with bones, hair, nails, and ripped clothes scattered everywhere. "What the hell happened here?" one gasped. He had never seen such gore even in the worst battles. Back in the palace, the gusts laughed as they watched the tiny Zephyr dance on a table with a stupid face, drunk after swimming in a barrel of dwarven firewine. Visit Rhea Dartley Thrope for the best novel reading experience. Chapter 623, Blood Omen. Chapter 623, Blood Omen. "Why you?" Aella rushed toward the table, catching Zephyr in her hand and lifting her up. "Snap out of it. I know you can," she growled at her. Zephyr giggled, her head dangling around as she drooled. "More." Arad sat on a chair in the back with Izdis at his side. "The guards told me they found the bandits messed up more than they would live to describe." Izdis looked at Arad's face. From their eyes, she didn't hold back. Arad shook his head. She held back more than you can understand. He looked at his hand, seeing the silver ring glowing. Probably I should put more on. He reached into his stomach, pulling Aella, Merida, and Mira's rings, putting them to fill his hand. And this from me, Doma added one last ring on his thumb, filling his fist. Still more to go. He stood. Where are you going? Izdis asked, looking at his back, walking around the ballroom. Arad, come here. Charlie waved his hand, inviting Arad toward the massive dinner table. The table spanned several meters long and held several roasted animals on top, everything from sheep, pigs, chicken, and turkeys. There was even a half-roasted cow taking a quarter of the table. Drinks were lined all the way in the corner of the room at a small bar with an old man sitting there, serving drinks to whoever asked. Arad stood beside Charlie and looked at the table. How did you even roast that cow? He looked at the meat. Have a massive oven or something. Kin can cook. Charlie smiled, ripping a chicken leg off and biting it. Eat and drink. You're the groom, aren't you? Don't get drunk, though. Thomas approached, sneaking a stare at the crying Zephyr in Aella's hand. Dealing with the wind spirit is enough. We don't need a drunk dragon going crazy. Arad smiled, pulling the cow's legs off with ease. He lifted the massive chunk of the meat and bit it, his teeth going straight through the bones as if they were biscuits. Don't worry, I don't get drunk that easily. Clang. Jack put a massive jug of dwarven firewire on the table beside Arad. Want a drink? I poured this just now. He lifted a mug of his own drinking. Unlike most people, the artificial liver Jack got from Cain allowed him to drink like a monster. Arad lifted the massive jug of wine. Jack brought him an appropriate size, albeit still feeling like a spoonful. He sniffed it and then stared at Jack. You just came in? Arad asked. Yeah, Jack smacked the mug on the table after finishing half. Was out with Lydia. Arad looked back at his jug, fairy bath wine. He put it aside. Jack seemed to have poured them from the barrel Zephyr swam in. Most people won't notice, but Arad could smell her in the wine, like the fragrance of mint and lime on a mojito. You eat people whole, disgusted by that? I just don't feel like drinking it. Arad looked at Jack. Where did you get that? Look, Jack pointed at a crowd of people fighting over a barrel of wine, scrambling to drink from it. If a lot of people are fighting for it, it must be good. Do you know, Arad looked at Jack, Zephyr was swimming in that barrel. Jack stopped drinking and stared at his mug. So that's why they are fighting over it, he sighed and kept drinking. Would have kept for sale later if I knew. What a waste of fairy dust. Fairy dust is the falling scales from a fairy's wings. It restores youth and man, and even dispels weak curses and grants good luck. By restoring youth, I mean it makes you look younger by getting rid of wrinkles and the like, not actually aging you backward. It doesn't work in dragons, Mom added after Doma. Izdis approached Eris, handing her a glass of wine as she saw her standing alone on the balcony. What are you thinking about? Izdis. Eris turned, taking the glass from her. I'm fine. No, you aren't. Izdis tapped her back, causing her to almost spill the wine. Speak. We live under the same roof. Eris sighed, looking at her palm, and the drop of red wine dripping across the glass like blood. She could feel her heartbeat, and the blood rushing in her veins pulse across her limbs, sending sparks of magic down to her nails. I do not feel my own death anymore. You what? We vampires are counted among the dead most of the time. That isn't an empty claim. I was able to sense my death, and that is why I worked as a funeral parlor director. Besides being entwined with Catal and his cult, of course, she smiled. No more murder, and now no more death. Isn't that good? What's the problem? Izdis smiled. You look free to me, aren't you? I feel off like something has been going on inside my body since the day I achieved my plasma expansion. I don't know if it's my draconic blood boiling or something else. She stared into the stars. Far away, a large steel coffin opened up in a cavern deep underground. Blood gushed out like a river, drowning the caves in the blink of an eye as runes of magic sparked red everywhere. A pale white hand emerged from the coffin, grabbing into its side as a naked thin man crawled out. his extremely long hair covering his whole body as his red eyes sparked with magic. He gasped, coughing blood. "That bastard to think he'll do that," Vlad growled, staring at his own distorted reflection in the blood as his eyes and the runes illuminated the place red. This is the singing coffin of the North, a young half-elf body. He stared at his own hands, sitting down in the blood. He extended his hands forward. "My blood, my soulless body," he mumbled, seeing his blood on all the vampires in the world, seeing them all. "I see she as well." His eyes landed on Eris. "I managed to achieve sun resistance with magic, and my daughter Scarlet inherited it." "But you're about to achieve something greater," he growled. "A holy vampire, I'll give you enough time to grow and ripe. All for me snatch you to my side," he smiled, staring at Arad through the blood. "You, dragon, take care of her well," he giggled. "For soon I'll come for your wife's ass. I wonder if we'll give birth to a perfect vampire." Vlad clenched his fists. "That's it, but I need to plan first." He waved his hands, blood forming a crimson robe on his body as he stood. "My goal is catching Eris alive and having children with her until I get a perfect vampire to use as a vessel. But for that, I need to deal with that dragon, Alcott, and Nina. Countless problems." He stood, looking at the ceiling as his hair started rising. "Zephyr is the biggest problem. I need generals, people strong enough to fight and win." He took a step forward. "Wait for me. I'll be there for revenge soon, and you'll regret blowing my kingdom." The most up-to-date novels are published on Chapter 624, Vampiric Sun Dragon. Eris stood from her chair, staring back into the ballroom. "Ayala," she called. Ayala approached her. "Need something?" "Tell Arad to meet me at the destroyed altar," she said, her eyes glowing with purple and golden. Her body shifted into a black and golden mist, shimmering through the night sky as she flew into the sky, leaving a trail of strange magic. Ayla lifted her hand, catching some of the mist, holy and blood magic at the same time. They aren't canceling each other, but instead getting stronger. She could see the full moon shimmering in the sky. No, a plasma draconic mixed magic was mixed in. If Amaterasu blessed her, Zephyr landed on Ayala's head. "Vampiric Sun Dragon," she said. "It probably won't be a transformation, but she'll slowly mix her bloodlines with holy magic and grow stronger. A vampire that can't just resist the sun, but holds its power." Ayala turned to call Arad, but found him standing right behind her. "You? Here?" Iris said to meet her at the altar. Catal's altar, the place she blew up weeks ago. Arad took a step, walking past Ayala. "She's already there, probably asking for a fight." "I don't think that's the case." Ayala sighed. "Arad is right," Zephyr said. "I can't get in her head, but it's how dragons marry." Zephyr looked at Ayala's eyes. Since she's the one coming to him, she went and laid rest close to him, waiting for him to attack. Fire, lightning, plasma, sun, and blood. She'll be waiting there with all of her might, waiting for me to answer her call. Arad's muscles expanded a bit. "I'll not disappoint her. Zahn." He disappeared into thin air, using Void Step to teleport to the house that had the cavern's entrance. Upon landing in the courtyard, he could feel an ominous presence pulsing from the building. He looked around, seeing that people had woke up in the middle of the night, sensing danger and starting to move away. Not a single animal or monster remained near. They all fled out, like a proper dragon. Her mere presence is forcing the ecosystem around her to change. Arad approached the door and held the handle, feeling a cold sweat dripping across his back. Upon opening the door, he could feel a gust of warm wind rush out, carrying Eris's scent, will, and magic out like a powerful perfume. He smiled, walking inside the abandoned house. With each step, he could feel Eris's presence grow stronger. She was the same woman he knew, but something about her was different. Holy magic trailed alongside her magic that he knew. Arad reached the stairs leading to the basement, and he could smell Eris inside, like a flowing cloud. He could see her magic gushing out of the basement. Arad smiled. In such a short time, by only having an additional element, her power spiked this much. She is stronger than that adult red. No, she may have reached the level of an adult purple dragon like her father. Despite being a half-dragon, he pushed further, reaching the stone door blocking the entrance to the cave system. Strands of magic sealed the door, only allowing entry to those authorized. This wasn't magic set by Eris, but something left by others. I thought Eris destroyed the place. Did someone come here after that? He touched the door, and it flashed white. You shall not pass. A woman's voice came out of the door. What is the word? She added. Arid stared at the door for a second. It isn't wise to get between a dragon and his mate. The door remained silent for a second, then opened up. Go in, she said. As Arid entered, Doma was inspecting the magic of the door. To think magic would respond to a dragon? I doubt that thing understood fear or reasoning. Was it programmed to let Arid in? What were the conditions? She then giggled. I get it, a fiend. Arid walked through the cave until he reached the open cavern, and he could hear Eris breathing inside. He went inside and could see her sitting on a stone, staring at him with glowing eyes. That was quick, she said. I expected you to take longer. I can wait if you still need to prepare, Arid smiled, opening his arms. I never expected you to awaken such power, albeit it could be my fault as well. He remembered how Amaterasu showed up and he couldn't move. If he was a bit stronger, it might have played differently. No, I'm ready. Magic pulsed out of Eris's body as she jumped down from the stone, all of her nails glowing crimson as her bare feet landed on the ground, scorching it. Arid cracked his neck. Last time you managed to push me to half-dragon form, but lost immediately. I'd love to say I'll drag you to the bed, Eris stared at him. But no one got her time since the wedding started, and I'll not step over them, she smiled. So even if you won, you'll wait for them, Arid smiled. And you should do the same. She waved her hands, her nails leaving a golden trace in the air. I just have this itch to test my strength on you. It's the same, Arid stared at her. When a human girl gets something beautiful, like jewelry, let's say a ring, the first thing she does is show it to her lover. He took a step forward. For dragons, it's the same with power. You want to show your strength. Does that mean, Eris looked at him, you never loved anyone. You never attacked any of us? I do love you all, Arid clenched his fist. It's just that I understand that only dragons express their love with violence. Humanoids appreciate different things, and I do try to learn. Guess Eris took a stance, plasma and holy magic sparking from her nails and up to her shoulders. More dragon than an elf. Express yourself as you wish. Arid took a stance. Be it in dragon's way or in elf's way, I'll adjust to what you feel comfortable with. Thank you. Eris smiled, her lips glowing red as her fangs grew longer, lusting for blood. For now, I'll act as a dragon, but I'll try being an elf later. Libdom. This chapter is updated by Chapter 625, Clash of Dragons. Yeris pointed at Arid with 2 fingers. Purple sunburst, a fist-sized ball of plasma shot forth, flying toward Arid at an incredible speed. Arid bent forward, fire gushing from his back and beneath his feet as he burst forward with one leap, using his innate magic to remove the void from the air ahead of him, pulling himself forward at even greater speed. He zapped beneath the purple sun, letting her burst behind his back as he threw a blinding fast fist at Eris's face. Eris's left eye flashed red at the last moment eye burst, and Arid's eyes exploded, the blood in them raging and ripping them into pieces. But even with that, he wasn't fazed. His fist kept flying toward Eris's face. Eris didn't want to stop his attack. She got hit in the nose with his punch, her head recoiling back. She wanted him to not see the next attack coming. She twisted her torso, swinging her foot up and hitting Arad's neck at full force. Divine smite Eris could feel Arad's neck crack on her ankle, seeing his head jolt as a blinding flash of light exploded with a clap from her foot, shaking his whole body from head to toe. Arad's body started flying away from the powerful impact, but he lifted his left hand, catching Eris's foot that was pushing against his neck before he could get flung away, pulling her with him. Eris gasped. Impossible? That didn't push him to the second phase? Nice kick, but an indirect hit won't take me down. Arad pointed at her stomach with a finger. Bam! A burst of water exploded from his finger, blasting her to the other side of the room. I don't have that many non-lethal attacks, but I do have a ton of water stored in my stomach. Arad took a step forward, his body glowing faintly purple with his eyes already healed. What did you do? Iris glowed, drenched wet as she barely stood, her white dress sticking to her body half transparent. But it instantly dried from the heat generated by her body. Barrier and gravity magic, Arad pointed at his neck. I formed a layer of gravity that pushes physical objects away from me if they got too close. Your kick never reached me, but the burst hit you, Eris smiled. You're a vampire. You can't tank that for long. I can tank 4 indirect hits, Arad looked at her, his fists resting on his hip. You got 1 indirect hit, 3 more to go before you force me into half-dragon form. The two energies got mixed together, sending rays of light everywhere as she lunged forward. Is it hard to use your vampiric powers with holy magic active? Arad's upper clothes disappeared, leaving his torso exposed. He didn't want to destroy Merida's clothes with his wings. He's certain Eris would at least push him that far. Arad took a step forward, stomping the ground with his whole weight as he clenched his fist, engulfing it in the void. Upon swinging it, the void erased the air, releasing a shockwave that pulled more air in, then exploded. Another big attack with a wide telegraph. Is he messing around, underestimating me? Eris waved her hand and countless blood spikes burst from the ground, forcing Arad to dodge to the side. She used that chance to slip between the spikes, swinging her palm at his side, her nails glue with plasma and holy magic, sending bursts of light. The second hit, Zon. Arad disappeared at the last moment, completely evading her strike. Eris gasped, realizing she made a huge mistake. Arad pulled her by the hair, turned her around, and punched her in the face, sending her flying. But before she got far, he teleported in her way and kicked her up into the ceiling. She smacked into the ceiling, and Arad pulled her back down with gravity, unleashing a barrage of punches on her too fast for her to dodge. Those big attacks, he was baiting me. I was the one underestimating his skills. I need him to stop holding back. His lethal attacks are easier to predict and dodge than those crafty ones. Divine surge, Eris's body flashed with holy magic, lightning like a lamp as she released a powerful burst, forcing Arad to get away. A second hit got delivered and he stared at his hand, seeing sparks of holy magic crackling. Not bad, Arad smiled, looking forward. But the only thing he could see was Eris's bare foot in front of his nose. He dodged, but she immediately shifted into a drop kick, hitting him in the shoulder. I blocked it with gravity, but it's still a third undirect hit. I barely have a quarter of my HP left, thanks to the holy magic. His eyes shifted toward Eris's foot, seeing her toenails smoking with sparks of plasma gushing out of them. That is what accelerated the drop kick. Arad lunged back to get some distance away, but Eris didn't let him go, lunging alongside him. She wrapped her legs around his neck, sitting on his throat and glaring down at his face sitting between her thighs. Arad gasped, protecting his body from direct contact with gravity, but he couldn't be more vulnerable than this. She clenched her fists, swinging at his nose. Divine Smite, her fist dropped his head to the ground, drilling it to the ground with a massive blast. Eris lunged back, looking at the smoke. That was the fourth hit. He should be shifting. The smoke cleared, and she could see Arad lying on the ground, motionless. To think that his base form gave most people a hard time, and even A-ranks couldn't keep up with it, but now she had taken it down relatively easily. Arad started laughing. 2 massive black wings burst from his back as horns emerged on his head. The massive tail erecting off his lower back helped his body stand facing Eris. His arms got covered with scales up to the elbows, and his nails turned to claws. He shook his legs, sucking his shoes back to his stomach as his feet shifted as well, the scales reaching his knees with claws digging into the ground. I like your black toenails, Arad looked at her. Were you casting magic from them just now? He pointed at her feet and then hands. Do you know what that means? It doesn't make a difference to you, does it? She tapped her feet on the ground, plasma crackling from her toenails to her fingernails, arcing with holy and blood magic. This chapter is updated by casting magic using your nails, you avoid all the lag of using an arcane focus, resulting in a cast as quick as moving your hand. But on the other side, it places a massive toll on the body, so most witches end up looking like old rags. I won't end up like that. Eris smiled, getting ready to block Erad's charge. I'm an immortal vampire with dragon blood flowing through my veins and now holy magic that keeps me healthy. I can take the toll with ease. Eris kept her eyes open, tracking Erad's every move. The last time she fought his second phase, she got blitzed before she could see him attack. Erad disappeared from her vision, and she felt her guts twist violently. The moment she realized it, Erad had already plunged his fist into her stomach, sending her back at a blinding speed. Eris barely stopped herself from smacking into the wall by extending her toenails into claws and latching to the ground. "I see, this is why I couldn't see you," she growled, smiling. Erad stood there, staring at her with his eyes glowing. The acceleration fools the eyes, but the speed is real. Slowing time to move faster. With you being able to drop it to 90%, that means you got 10 times faster than your humanoid form. Eris took a stance, her stomach healing immediately. "You can't spam that, so as long as I survived the first hit, I'm fine." She blasted forward, plasma gushing from her back like jets, propelling her faster than she could before. Norm! As she reached Erad, blood gushed out of her hand, forming a blade. Crack. She stopped right before reaching Erad, swinging the sword up with holy magic crackling from her fingers and through the blood like lightning. Erad stared at the sword divine smites. His mind raced. The spell is granted by a god to a mortal to dispel evil and undeath. He stepped back, dodging the attack. His eyes followed Eris's body, trying to read her flow of magic. A fraction of a second before the attack, a charge of holy magic appears in the user's heart like a spark. That's the power the god grants them, and it takes a great toll on the body as it jolts it all. Eris swung the sword down, and Erad barely dodged, seeing his arm almost getting blasted with the smite. Swash! Clap. The divine spark travels from the heart to whatever is the user's weapon of choice. For Eris, it's the blood sword. At that moment, the weapon will become infused with holy magic, ready to burst. Then, upon contact, it discharges the divine magic into whatever it hits, blasting it. But there is a catch. A bit of the divine magic remains in the air between the blade and the target, exploding soon after as a secondary burst. It was probably put there by the gods to prevent the undead from escaping in case they survived the hit, and that's what gets me. Even though I blocked the blade with gravity magic, Erad teleported behind Eris, swinging his fist at her, but she turned around, sending a spinning kick at his face. Erad blocked the hit with gravity magic, but the secondary explosion got him again, sending him flying back. Works as the gods intended. "It's giving me trouble." Erad landed on his hands, doing a flip while keeping his eyes on Eris. "If I found a way to bypass that, would the gods patch it? Make it so my solution would stop working?" Eris lunged forward, swinging her foot at his face with all her might. Divine Crusher Erad opened his arms, smiling with his eyes glowing green. "Amaterasu, you fool. Do you think a game of catch would prevent me from trying?" Clap. Eris kicked Erad's face, stomping his head to the ground with a massive divine explosion. She blinked. He didn't move out of the way, but he still blocked with gravity. If he didn't have more phases, she would have stopped her kick, but for now she might be able to push him to dragon form. But then she felt it. The thing beneath her foot didn't feel like a face, but as hard, cold stone. She looked after the dust, seeing Erad's upper torso and face had turned into gray marble, petrified. "What in the hell?" she gasped. The answer was simple. Curses are the opposite of holy magic. As I expected, they cancel each other, but the petrification effect on me remains and protects me. Eris jumped back, sweating as she watched Arad stand unharmed after eating a divine crusher to the face. He stood staring at her. What's the problem? Keep attacking. Just in the hell. How could you do that? Eris mumbled, staring at him. The gods rule the world and the system. An evil being won't ever be able to get immunity to their magic through the system. It won't make sense for the gods to grant immunity to those they want to kill, but the only exception is when the creature serves like she's now with Amaterasu. Amaterasu laughed in the heavens. As I expected, he has what it takes. She stared down into a pond, seeing them, a power that doesn't rely on anything besides his own strength and wits. She waved her hand. Go Kisue Eris! Hit him with more holy magic than he can cancel out. Amaterasu poured a flood of magic unwieldable by mortals into Eris's body. Her goal was simple: overwhelm Arad with quantity. Eris's body burst with holy magic, flowing faster, stronger than ever. She clenched her fists, giggling, "You were right. Find a solution, and they come with a counter." Arad extended his hand toward her. "Wrong." He smiled. "Gods they may be, but their powers flow through mortals, limited by flesh and bones." "What are you talking about?" "It's a contest to see who will dry first." Chapter 627, Monster of Learning. Chapter 627, Monster of Learning. Eris lunged forward, sucking the blood sword back into her veins and conjuring a long spear. "You'll run out of mana first." She thrust at his face. The spear burned with divine magic, ready to deliver a divine piercer. Arad smiled, clenching his right fist. The scales on it turned into stone as the curse of petrification engulfed it. With a burst, he uppercut the spearhead. Gravity magic prevented direct contact, and the curse of petrification nullified the secondary blast, shattering in the process. Eris gasped, unable to believe that she had just seen someone punch a divine piercer out of the way, and he was a vampire on top of it. If she told the church, they'd call her a heretic. She used the momentum left from Arad hitting the tip of the spear to spin it, trying to smack him on the side. Arad swung his left hand down, smacking the spear away and deflecting a divine crusher. He could have tried to petrify me and end the fight quickly, but he's intentionally choosing the hard way. If I were the target, I'd just nullify the curse and make it useless. But he's choosing to use it on himself and manually block all the attacks, since there is nothing I can do about it. She took a step back and swung her foot at him, her nails crackling with plasma. "How about this?" she cried. Arad stepped forward, hugging her with her leg up, pushing her knee into her face. The force of her kick has all disappeared. Eris tried to move, but in that hug she had no way of overpowering Arad's might. She stared at his passive face, terrified. This man is something else. Her whole body flashed with plasma and holy magic, burning like a flare. Arad let go of her and jumped back, shaking his hands with a smile as he looked at her. "That burns." He then opened his arms. "Come for a second hug," he said. Two veins bulged on Eris's forehead. "He's mocking me?" Her right fist blazed with plasma. As she burst forward, she swung at his face. Arad ducked down, taking a step forward and hugging her from the stomach. Lifting her up, the plasma in Eris's fist burst forward as she missed Arad's chest, exploding far back and shaking the whole cave. Eris growled, swinging her fist repeatedly at Arad's back with holy and plasma magic, but nothing got in. The scales on a dragon's back were the hardest, and by adding his gravity and curse, she couldn't damage him at all. "Okay, this is getting embarrassing." Eris growled, her whole body bursting with holy and plasma magic in a massive burst, sending Arad flying back, his face charred. "Do you like that?" She stared at him. "Stop hugging me. Keep that for the bed." Arad stood, his face healing as he smiled. "Yeah, I like this." He cracked his neck, his eyes glowing. "When you expand so much mana and holy magic to get me off you." Eris could feel her knees growing weaker, her chest tightening as she started feeling her mind dazing away. "I see. He was taunting me to expand massive amounts of mana and stress my body with a lot of holy magic. He can recycle mana, he'll never run out, and only he knows how much blood he has stocked up for heals. Noticed?" He took a step forward. Late. But I did. She stared at her shaking palm. I already stressed myself with holy magic. I'm not used to it since I only got it. Clench your teeth. Arad looked at her, his eyes glowing purple, and he disappeared from her vision, for her to see his fist at her face. He can use time magic again. Eris gasped, taking his fist to the face. But at the same time, her foot dug into his side, exploding with a massive burst of plasma. Both of them got sent flying, and Arad smiled, holding his bleeding side. She tanked that and countered. Did she give up on trying holy magic and return to using raw power? He stared into the distance, seeing 2 purple plasma wings glow. Death Butterfly Eris stepped forward, wearing her plasma and holding a massive purple spear in her hand. Each step she took melted the ground beneath her feet. Her face healed as her eyes dripped plasma like tears. That hurt, you know. You kick hurt as well. Arad walked toward her, his body healing as he expanded his wings, his tail flailing around like a whip ready to strike. But I like women who can kick me back. Lower your standards. There aren't many who could do that. Eris stared at him with a smile. I too like those who I can't kill. Her spear scratched the ground, leaving a long, melted line. In the blink of an eye, she threw the spear at him, aiming for the torso. Arad dodged, and Eris flew straight to him. Her fingers flashed with plasma. Her palm struck Arad's face, and he kicked her at the side. Both tanked the hits, swinging again and again at each other. She's holding to the ground by melting the stone around her feet. And on top, healing with both blood and what remained of her holy magic. I can't shake her off, Arad smiled, taking plasma-infused punches and kicks from left to right. He's heavy, Eris growled. His leg claws are fastening him to the ground, and his weight, magic, and bulk are sucking most of my attacks. I can't move him, she thought, taking hits left and right. The cave started cracking as the 2 clashed, each hit sending a shockwave powerful enough to crack the walls. Bam! The 2 lunged back, bleeding with smiles. My holy magic is back, Eris smiled, lifting her hands. And so is my time spell. Arad put his hands together. Putting her hands together, her nails flashed with plasma blood and holy magic sparking into her eyes and back. The void started rushing out of Arad's back, crackling into his hands, infused with gravity magic and the petrification curse. Plasma expansion. Void expansion. Read latest chapters at Werger Leisheth Tleksh only Chapter 628. Praise the Sun. Chapter 628. Praise the Sun. Plasma expansion, purple sun. Plasma gushed out of Eris's body, condensing around her into a massive ball akin to a purple sun, releasing so much heat that the cave started melting. Void expansion, devouring void darkness gushed out of Arad's chest, clashing with the purple sun and engulfing it in the blink of an eye. Unlike their previous clash, Arad had expected Eris's expansion and smiled. Her purple sun hadn't grown bigger since the last time he saw it, probably due to her being unable to keep it stable more than a lack of power. And so to prevent it from exploding and tearing his void, he started crushing it with gravity magic instead of trying to eat it. Eris could feel the ground around her purple sun disappear as Arad consumed her into the void. That had made it harder for her to feed the sun matter to expand it, but it wasn't a problem. She already had it big enough. Burst. They expanded rapidly, pushing against Arad's gravity. He clenched down on it with all his might, and it exploded in a brilliant flare. At the same time, Arad used his void to suck as much as possible of the gases and matter released from the sun as quickly as he can in an attempt for preventing his stomach from bursting. The sun faded, exploding inside Arad's space, shining brightly as it died. Arad smiled as the sun disappeared, holding his aching stomach as he dispelled his expansion. Nice try, but I already saw it once. You won't get me twice. He looked at Eris, who stood in place, sweating buckets. Eris giggled, wiggling in place and barely managing to stand. Arad stood, taking a deep breath. He never felt such pain before, the only thing topping it when Eris actually burst his expansion open. You're really impressive. I fought adult dragons who can't output this much power. Eris stared at him with a crazed smile. Arid, do you remember? She lifted her hands up. This is a fight of domination. No one would lose like this. She extended her hands up in a Y shape. Praise the sun. Arad blinked, confused. Holy expansion, bird. Since the divine mana needed for holy magic is provided by the god, the caster isn't bound by the limit of their own pool of mana, but only with the endurance of their body. For mortals, the only way for them to keep spamming holy magic is by using that same magic to heal their bodies, reducing their lifespan in the process. But for an immortal vampire, Eris doesn't need to worry about losing years of her infinite life. A combination that shouldn't exist due to the nature of vampirism and holy magic, but her special case allowed for such a thing. Crack. Eris landed before Arad as his unconscious body transformed into his draconic form. You know what's funny? My holy magic is far weaker at night than at day. Eris's holy magic is tied to the sun, growing stronger as the sun rises and reaches its peak at noon. Her vampire side is the opposite, reaching its peak at midnight. But strangely enough, she's at her strongest at dusk and dawn when the two powers mix. Her draconic side is the most stable, being active equally throughout the day, providing her with a strong foundation that she can rely upon. She pointed up. The sun is rising. She smiled. I only have a few minutes. I'll win in them. 3 horns emerged on her head, 2 black ones in the back, and a long white one from her forehead. 4 wings emerged from her back, 2 bat ones and 2 plasma ones, glowing brightly as holy lightning crackled from her toes up her hands and horns. Her hair shifted blonde as she stared at Arad, a gentle smile on her face. Arad's draconic body moved, lifting his right hand and giving her a thumbs up. She blinked. Okay. Arad stood cracking his long neck. I didn't expect you to pull a holy expansion right after your purple sun expansion. The toll both on your body and mana reserve should have been great. I let my guard down and wasn't ready to guard against holy magic. My power doesn't grow linearly with my phases. He stood tall, his massive body towering over Eris as his eyes glowed with a purple flare. Don't let your guard down. This is several times stronger, sturdier, and faster than before. Arad lifted his right claw up, telegraphing his strike. How fast could Arad's claw dropped before she could see it, ripping her right arm and wing? What? She gasped, her eyes turning aside. I told you to be careful. I can't hold back in this form as well as I do in my humanoid form. He lifted his left claw. More muscles, more surface to absorb mana, and stronger nerves fully stretched across my body. It should have been obvious. Holy expansion, solar domain, Eris cried, unleashing the holy expansion once more. Arad stood there, staring at her with his eyes glowing green and purple. A thick layer of cursed stone engulfed his body, shielding him from the holy magic. How long can you last? Eris growled, staring at Arad as he looked like a statue standing before her. But suddenly, her head got pulled toward the ground, smacking her nose on the stones. She tried to stand, but felt heavy. Her face, knees, and hands cracked as she got pulled toward the ground with an even greater strength. Amplified gravity from Arad had brought her down, and she was forced to stop the expansion. As the holy magic dissipated, Arad looked at Eris as she panted on the ground. Magic grows stronger depending on how much mana, thinking, and refining you put into it. Stand up, and I'll admit defeat. No, I give up, Eris growled. Stop it. Arad nodded, canceling his magic, letting her breathe. Are you okay? The gravity pulled my blood down, and I wasn't able to heal. She rolled on her back. I could use holy magic, but I feared you might think it's an attack and increase the output of your magic. Either way, I would have died. You fought well. Arad looked at her, getting his massive head closer to her. Especially witchcraft. You wouldn't have lasted half as long if you relied on an arcane focus. What impresses you? Not the holy magic? Eris chuckled. Holy magic is a borrowed power, not something you own. I hate that kind of power, Arad replied. Witchcraft is a power you own. I'll praise that more even if it was weaker. The nail polish was worth it, Eris sighed. I'll tell that store lady that my husband loved it." She looked at Arad. "You don't mean that," lifted an eyebrow. "Of course, the store owner didn't know what she was selling," Eris replied. "No use telling her." She sat up, her wounds healing. "So what do you say? Should I get some tattoos, ones that hold magic scripture for mana recovery and capacity? I heard they even make transparent ones that glow blue when using magic. I don't know." Arad scratched his chin. "Can they be removed? So you can exchange the effects?" "They should, but I need to look more into them." She extended a hand toward Arad. "Would you fund my witchcraft research?" As much as reasonably possible, Arad shifted back into his humanoid form, carrying Eris. "For now, rest. This chapter is updated by Riva. Chapter 629 at dawn. Chapter 629 at dawn. Put me down. I can walk on my own," Eris gasped, trying to push Arad away. "You can't just walk on your own, but fight as well. You're powerful enough to beat my half-dragon form. Judging by how you're a half-dragon as well, I say in that, you're stronger than me." He kept walking, ignoring her push. "There aren't that many people like you. I did talk with Lydia about this." Eris looked at the dawning sun. "She's the one who first beat me. So I wanted her opinion about using holy magic." Arad looked at the sun with a worried face about Lydia seeing her fight before. "I can't shake this feeling that she could wake me down." "She's slower and weaker than both of us." Eris stared at him. "She might have a far superior control over holy magic than me due to experience, but I doubt that edge would help her win. Alcott is physically weaker and slower than the dragons he hunts, yet he still rips through them like a scythe through wheat." Arad looked at Eris. "You can be as proficient as her. Then I need to rack up experience by fighting monsters and humanoids alike." Eris smiled. "Let's get back. I bet the others are worried." Before that, Arad extended his hand into his stomach, pulling 2 rings, a silver and gold one. "My, you had some for me as well," she smiled, extending her hand toward him. "You saw the rings before." Arad sighed, pushing the gold ring into her finger, and she pushed the silver ring into his right hand. Arad looked at his fist. It was full of rings, and now he's starting to fill his right fist. "Too much rings," he mumbled. "You looked like a wannabe rich merchant pretending to have a lot of money by wearing jewelry." Eris giggled, hugging Arad's neck as he teleported with her toward the castle, landing on the balcony of the ballroom where he was before. "You've had quite the dance," Amber said, staring at them as she sat on a chair pointing at the garden below. Arad looked, finding the ground as dry as the desert. "Wasn't it just raining? The heat and magic, released by your fight, almost cooked the capital." She stood approaching them. "Next time, get even further away before you get down to your business? Don't forget that we aren't humans." She looked at her hand. "You, me, and her. Most of us are now monsters beyond human conventions. Collateral damage is still a thing. I know. I wasn't expecting such heat to be released." Arad sighed. "That was probably my expansion." Eris stood on her own, looking at Amber. "It might not be as hot as yours, but it's still a purple sun." "Mine?" Amber sighed, shaking her head. "I don't have one, and don't call that an expansion. Igniting the air could be a disaster." "I won't let that happen." Zephyr flew in, sitting on Amber's head. "The air is my domain, and I have enough power to make sure you won't burn it." "Thanks." Amber sighed in relief. "Forget about that." Zephyr grabbed Amber by her eyelashes and pulled her face up, staring at her eyes. "How about getting in with Arad? He has money. Don't joke like that." Amber sighed, pulling Zephyr off her head. "I might be a gold digger, but I'm not that cheap." She looked at Arad. "She can bear eggs now. Being a fire elemental raised her mana stability a lot," Mom said in Arad's head. "What makes a woman unable to bear a void egg isn't age and physical degradation. But it's more magic degradation due to old age sickness or an unnatural shift in magic, like what happens with wild magic sorcerers. Amber's magic circuit had degraded due to age and excessive alcohol consumption, but transforming into a fire elemental fixed that. The same could be said for Nina. Physically, she couldn't be better, but the strange blood flowing down her veins would get in the way of a healthy egg. So, unless she gets rid of it, or fully controls it, she can't bear void eggs. But Merlin showed behind Arad, walking around him. "What about me?" she smiled. "No," Arad stated. "I know it's possible with a high human, but the magic consumption would be far too great. Your body won't handle it. I know I'm physically weak, but I can compensate with magic. Magic doesn't make you healthy." Arad looked at her. "And you won't do any weird experiments on me?" "I'll only write a book about void dragon mating rituals and habits." Merlin smiled, staring at Arad with interest, excited to record anything about the rare species of dragon ahead of her. Arad sighed, walking into the ballroom as the other girls followed him. The guests had already left, and he found the rest of the girls sitting inside, drinking tea as they read a large pile of papers with King Baltos. "What's going on?" Arad asked. Baltos handed a paper to Arad. "Take a look. A strange monster got spotted at the kingdom's edge," Ayla said, with a worried face. Not a single person encountered it and lived, and it had already killed a dozen A-rank adventurers. Since when, as Arad read the paper, his eyes could only grow wide, Nina approached him. 2 days ago, but it was thought to be a normal monster, and we expected the party of A-ranks to deal with it, but now we lost them. "So, you want me to take care of it?" Arad put the paper on the table. "Work right after the wedding? This is a bad timing. Judging by how it's moving, its path would cross your land eventually." Baltos looked at him. "I didn't want to push the work onto you, so I wanted to discuss the problem with them first." He looked at the girls. "See if it's something you deal with first, before asking you for help." No matter how strong it is, Arad lifted his hand, his rings reflecting the light. "One pull into my expansion and it dies." He thought about the cursed pillar he has. "You'll take the job?" Baltos gasped. "If that's the case, I'll start the preparation." Arad shook his head. "No need. I got deal with it quickly and come back," he said. "I do want to get back to making eggs as soon as possible. I won't take a week's quest. I'll go alone so I can move at top speed, reach and blast it to ash with an expansion, and come back before the sunset," Arad said, and Baltos looked out the window. "It's only a bit after dawn. You sure? It's dangerous." He looked at him. "At least take someone with you." "I'm taking one with me," Arad smiled, thinking of Doma inside his head. "Go back home with Alcott." "I'll be back before you know it." Arad walked toward the balcony. "It's already daytime, so get ready for the night," he whispered to Ayla. "Get the other ready as well." She nodded, blushing. Zahn Arad teleported into the sky, flying into the sunrise. 1 week later, no word came back from Arad until a sealed box was delivered to Alina's guild. Nina immediately recognized the box. It's the one the guild sends the remains of adventurers into their homes. She opened the red later, and her face paled upon seeing the first line written there. "The remain of Arad Orion of Alina S-rank adventurer." The most up-to-date novels are published on eBay Chapter 630, Shocking News. Chapter 630, Shocking News. Nina gasped, the ground beneath her feet cracking as the whole guild building shook, sending terror across all the adventurers. Everyone looked toward her. A box with the remains of an adventurer wasn't unusual. In fact, it was common. A ranger looked through his fingers using a skill to peek all the way to the paper in Nina's hand, curious as to who died this time. The remain of Arad Orion of Alina S-rank adventurer. The blood froze in his veins. His sweat gushed out as his skin almost turned into stone and his soul wanted to leave his body. That monster Arad died? It didn't seem real. What could be powerful enough to drop such a being down? "Hey, who is it?" The fighter beside him asked, poking his side with his elbow. "Jorn, don't tell me that idiot Alamir." "I must be blind," the ranger mumbled, not wanting to believe his eyes. "You aren't. Who was it?" He poked him again. "Arad Orion." he mumbled back with a frozen face. Stop joking. Even I'm not dumb enough to believe it, he laughed, poking his friend once again. Hoy, stop pretending, the fighter said with a forced smile. You're scaring me. Drop it. There is no monster out there powerful enough to beat Arad. If that was the case, it's the world's end. You're right. The world is about to end, the ranger gasped. The earth started shaking, a deep rumbling gushed from its depth as the streets and buildings cracked, and a powerful earthquake shook Alina. All the children in the city started screaming their lungs out, shouting in terror, "The ground is angry, run!" They started panicking all over the place, causing confusion among the people. Nina stared down. "Losi, calm down," she screamed, smacking the ground with her foot. Crack! The ground before the gate, forming a massive jaw 20 meters is width, made of stone, roots, and dirt. "Who was it? I'll eat them whole. Calm down," Nina screamed again. "This must be a false claim. A false claim?" Losi calmed just enough for her to stop trying to move. If she did, Alina's city that was on her back would crumble, killing everyone there. "I'm sure he's alive somewhere," Nina repeated herself, "albeit I never saw a false death before." Nina grabbed the top of the sealed box, cracked it open, and took a look inside, finding a large black clothes. She squinted. The smell of rot assaulted her nose. "It's—" she gasped, lifting the clothes and unwrapping them, finding Arad's left arm with all the wedding rings still on the fingers. His arm? The ground started shaking again, and one of the city walls crumbled immediately as Losi tried to stand. I said, "Calm. This is good news." Nina kicked the ground again. It's his humanoid arm. Losi stopped moving, realizing that even if Arad died in his humanoid form, he would be pushed into other forms. As long as they didn't get a mutated vampiric wormwolf arm, there is still hope. The guild's door opened up, and Ayla walked in. "Nina?" "Lucy is freaking out, and I don't know why." She rushed toward the counter, seeing Nina standing there with the box and Losi's flower on the side. Her nose immediately tingled from the smell. The magic coming from the box was familiar. "Arad?" She gasped, staring inside the box only to see Arad's arm. Her eyes quickly jolted toward the letter and snatched it from Nina's hands. "This must be wrong," she gasped. "That's what I think," Nina replied. "Calm down and don't panic like Losi. We need to figure out a plan to find and rescue him. He said he'll be back in a day, but it's already been over a week." Ayla looked at Nina. "We need to act quickly. Arad should be able to survive. We need to plan well." Nina turned around. "I'll get the guild master involved. You get everyone ready. If something took Arad down, we can't underestimate it." Nina rushed to the stairs, jumping straight to the second floor and lunging toward the guildmaster's room. She pulled a golden key from her pocket and opened the door, walking in and closing behind her. The room was clean, only having a large desk, 2 chairs for the guests, and a large cabin at the back. Nina approached the cabin. "You said to never let anyone get behind this, and that it'll be an emergency if someone tried to see what you hid behind." Nina clenched her fist. "Someone like you would come back if it got crushed, bam?" The whole guild shook as Nina smacked the cabin out of the guild with one punch, sending it flying across the streets. Nina gasped, her eyes opening wide as she saw something she never expected behind the cabin. A massive bone gate with a skeleton stuck to each of the doors, their hands grabbing the handles with eldritch red flames. "A hell gate?" she gasped. "What's this doing here? No. What would the guildmaster do with it?" The hell gate opened up, and Guildmaster Malta lunged out, grabbing Nina by the neck and pushing her out of the secret room. "Who? Wait, Nina?" Malta gasped, letting go of Nina. "You broke into the room?" Malta growled. Yeah, sorry, I don't care," Nina growled. "An adventurer died. We need your help." "They die all the time. Is that a reason to break into this room?" Malta growled at her. "It's not any adventurer. I'm talking about Arad Orion." Nina stared at her. "Now you lie?" Malta growled. "If that man died, the world would end. I'm still alive and the world still exists, so he's alive. We got a box with his remains. I'll bring them to you." Nina walked out and Malta sighed, dropping on her chair and looking back at the shattered secret entrance. That's Nina for you? No thinking. She just moves forward until achieving her goals. Malta smiled, waving her hand and fixing the entrance. Soon, Nina came back with Arad's remains, putting them on Malta's desk. Rigurtly oath. Malta took one look inside and her face changed. This is bad. Figured anything. Nina looked at Arad's hands. Malta pointed at the cut. Look here. See this black goo? It isn't rot. It's something else, and I think I heard of it. You can help then? Nina looked at her, trying her best to keep up. Not me. Malta shook her head. But if it's what I think it is, Arad might not remain alive for long. She started sweating. My husband fought in a war where the thing that this goo came from might have existed. We'll need to ask him. She put the hand back in the box and stood heading toward the secret room. Where are you going? Nina gasped. To my husband. Malta looked at her. There's only the hell gate in that room. Malta paused for a second. Well, how do I explain this? She looked around. My husband lives in the hells, the first layer of the hell. Nina gasped. I never heard of expeditions there. Sorry. Malta looked down. In fact, we live in the 9th layer. She looked away. The deepest one, Nina gasped, and my husband is quite respected. She giggled. He's the pit lord of the pit fiends, an archdevil? You already saw the gate. Malta looked at her. You can come visit, but don't tell anyone. It's a secret. How did you end up with an archdevil? A contract firing back? Nina looked at her as they approached the gate. In fact, Malta blushed. Spindle was with me since he was a tiny, cute little gremlin of an imp. She started wiggling. Now he grew into a massive pit lord that commands a part of the Devil Lord's army.